All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 47. Thank you guys so much for being here, taking some time to hang out with me. I know that the webcam placement is a little awkward at the moment. That will change. I just want to let the credits roll for a little bit longer. The webcam placement will make sense when we, you know, remove the credits and get to some gameplay. But yeah, this is episode 47 of Press X Podcast. Kind of crazy. We're getting closer to episode 50, and that is just insane to me. And I'm wearing the new All Right Guys MBG hoodie, trying to showcase the merch a little bit. Also have my Press X Podcast mug with my rant juice in it. But yeah, and I'm sure you guys see the new banner in the background. Um, it's it's God of War, Kratos, Atreus. At the bottom it says "Be better." I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't see the whole thing, but I just thought it was cool. There's a chance my cat may tear down this banner at some point during this podcast, and I do want to apologize in advance if that happens because it's an absolute disaster behind that banner. I'm currently in the basement, and things are not looking good down here right now. So I just want that to be known. Hopefully that won't happen. But yeah, seriously, thank you guys so much for being here, though. We do have a lot of, in my opinion, really solid topics to go over and discuss. I think that things are a little bit quiet right now. I think they've been kind of quiet lately. I think we can all agree on that. Um, there's not really a whole lot going on, and I think that there's a reason for that, and we're gonna dive into that during this podcast, at least with one of the topics. And I see a lot of you asking how my son's doing. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for asking. I do appreciate that. It's mostly good news. There was a little bit of a scare this week that I think, made me just, you know, it just brought about, a lot more gray hair instantaneously. But it was a one-time thing, and as of right now, things seem to be going a lot better. Unfortunately, my wife and my son are still at the hospital. They have to stay there for a little bit longer. All right, my cat's already doing it. Hold on. Hey, better knock it off, dude. I knew he was gonna do this. I knew he was gonna do this. I got a new banner, and the cat's gonna tear it down. It's gonna happen. Again, I apologize for what is lurking behind that banner. But, oh boy, this is going to be an interesting episode. You're saying show us the cat. He may show up. He was just on my lap, but I guess because he knew that I was starting the podcast, he's like, well, I got to ruin this. I got to make sure I ruin this. So he better not, man. He better not. But yeah, things are going a lot better with the family. We're not 100% there yet, but it has gotten significantly better, and I can't sit here and make it sound like it's getting worse because it's absolutely not. I probably wouldn't be doing the podcast if it was getting worse. So I can't thank you guys enough for the support that you've shown me here recently on a personal level and also on the channel. Really does mean a lot. So thank you guys for asking. Just to do a couple plugs here before I run down the topics that we're going to be discussing today. If you're not subscribed to the channel, obviously do that. If you are subscribed, or whether you're not subscribed and you're here, make sure you hit the like button. That really helps the podcast out. Feel free to share it out as well so we can kind of get Press X Podcast out there to more like-minded gamers. If you want to help support the channel directly, donating a super chat goes a long way. Becoming a channel member, you do get some exclusive perks for doing so, or buying some merch. These are all things you could do to help support the channel directly. And I feel like I don't mention that stuff enough, so I'm just trying to do that a little bit more just to make people aware. But speaking of members, I'm going to bring in the gameplay now. And so you guys will have to let me know how this is looking on your end. I, I don't know if my webcam is taking up too much of the screen space, but I want to make sure that, it's not too small. So you guys can let me know. And I want to give a quick shout out to my members, those of you who choose to be part of the higher tiers. Really appreciate you guys going above and beyond. So we have the Play Has No Limits Plus tier. Huge shout out and thank you to Junior Jackson, Tam Tam 1982X, D Luffy, and Samuel Payne. We also have the Play Has No Limits category or tier. So thank you and big shout out to Brandon Chad Perez, Matt Wheatley, Alpha Acer, Brittany Goes Meow, Adrian Pollard, Sayin JT, Jeffrey Hicks, Big Norman 0518, Michael Bradley, Tyson Webb 509, MH, Shaky Shako, Ragin Whiskey, Space Gambler Jr., Josh Z, and the Tiger Man Show. Thank you guys so much for choosing to, again, opt into a higher tier here over on the channel. It really goes a long way in helping support me directly. And we do have a super chat from, let me see here. The Mark Shark, you're saying, which single video game character would you choose to have by your side during a zombie apocalypse? Could be any video game character. That's a good question. I feel like my instinct is to immediately go to my favorite video game characters, but I'm not sure that they're the smartest choice. So, for example, Solid Snake and Big Boss are two of my favorite video game characters of all time, but I'm not sure that they would be the most ideal characters, to have in a zombie apocalypse when you consider that there are other characters with abilities, powers, stuff like that. Um, I kind of think about, looking back at the PS4, I immediately think to Infamous, Second Son. And I know that wasn't the most popular Infamous game, but it was really the only one I've ever played. So I think about the abilities that, Delson Rowe would have. And I think, well, he'd be pretty useful. I mean, I would just hope he chooses the good path. Right. But, stuff like that. I don't know if we can count like superhero video game characters. I feel like that's a little bit OP, but you're saying, yeah, Kratos. Yeah, I mean, Kratos to me is like, that's too OP. Like, oh, well, I'm in a zombie apocalypse, but I have a god specifically of war. So yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably have to say, if it could be any character, I think Kratos would probably be the best one. Just, any character that has like abilities and powers that can just make it so that I don't really have to do anything except make sure they're my friend. But anyway, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Let me give you a quick rundown of the topics that we're going to be discussing over the course of this podcast. Yeah, you say Spider-Man as well. Yeah, I feel like that'd be a bit OP too. So the first topic we're covering has to do with Sony's 2021 exclusive games lineup and how it seems as though there's a little bit of a shuffle going on right now. And I think that there is a pretty significant reason for this, but I kind of want to just talk about the layout, the way it's looking right now. Obviously, Returnal got delayed recently, which I don't think is a big deal in it of itself because it was just delayed by 1 month. However, I do think that it has greater implications about the rest of the year and the rest of Sony's lineup and when it will be when those games will be launching. We're going to talk about that. I also just want to talk a little bit about Sony's February PlayStation Plus games lineup because I find it very interesting what they're doing with Destruction All Stars, and I think that Sony is really just knocking it out of the park, honestly, with their PS Plus games lineup. And I think that people aren't really paying enough attention to that. Like, we always hear about how great of a deal Game Pass is. And, we saw the recent fiasco where Microsoft just made a boneheaded move where they're like, hey, we're going to double the price of Xbox Live. Oh, wait, never mind. You guys don't want that. And I just feel like, Sony doesn't get enough credit for the value that I think they do provide with PlayStation Plus, with their monthly games, how strong they've been, but also with the PlayStation Plus collection, which I do think could eventually become a true competitor to Game Pass when Sony decides that that's going to have to happen. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about some more rumors about more PlayStation 4 exclusives getting PlayStation 5 upgrades, specifically looking at The Last of Us Part 2, as well as Death Stranding, and possibly even Ghost of Tsushima. We are going to talk a little bit about the medium. And we have Mr. Hamster. You're saying, good to be back here, man. I've been dealing with stuff. Yeah, I know how that goes, Mr. Hamster. Well, I'm just glad you can be here. Appreciate your continued support, buddy. I do know how that goes, dealing with stuff. It seems that that just seems to be what's happening for a lot of people, unfortunately. But we are going to be talking about The Medium, which is a title I have not played. However, I certainly have some thoughts on it. We have to talk about the way it's reviewing, what people are saying about it, because it really is the first, I don't want to say big, but it's the first proper Series X and S only exclusive game. And it seems there's a very good chance it's going to be making its way to PlayStation at some point. We also have another super chat from Darren. You're saying, how you doing, MBG? Glad you and your family are doing well. When did you switch to PlayStation, and what would you say was the main factor in this? Well, thank you for asking about the family. We are doing much better. We're still going through some stuff, but we're pushing through it. So thanks for asking. I switched to PlayStation around the time that Crackdown 3 came out, because by that point, I had a lot of people telling me, like, hey, man, you keep talking about these Xbox games that are coming out, and you're just playing on the Xbox platform. You're missing out on a lot of great games that PlayStation is producing. You've missed out on a lot of great games that Sony has put out on the PlayStation 4 so far. So basically, at the beginning of 2019, I just, I started playing these PS4 exclusives. I played God of War, I believe in 2018, and it blew me away. And I was like, wow, this is like one of the greatest games I've ever played. And by that point, I was very much convinced that, yeah, Sony, they know what they're doing when it comes to game development. And I kind of can't believe that I've been missing out on it for this long. But I was still kind of in the mindset, like, but I still think Xbox is going to come back. And I actually had hope somehow for a game like Crackdown 3. And once we got to that point, I was just like, I'm done. Like, I literally made a video basically saying, like, I'm done. I'm done waiting. I'm done listening to the PR speak from Phil Spencer and everybody over there at Xbox telling me as an Xbox fan that they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and just essentially waiting. I just got tired of waiting. And then I moved over to PlayStation. And, I always say this because it's funny. A lot of people come to me and they say, dude, you just went to PlayStation for the views, man. You did it for the views on your channel and the likes. And what I find interesting about people who say that is they say that as if I had some kind of magic crystal ball where I could see, hey, if you talk about PlayStation games, suddenly you're just going to get more views. I knew that PlayStation was definitely the better selling console, but I just think people don't understand that. Like, I didn't anticipate that at all. I was just hoping to honestly play some great games and just have more content to talk about, because when it came to Xbox and the games they were producing, there was no passion there, man. There just became more anger and frustration. So, yeah, I know that was a long-winded answer, but just to finish off the topics, yeah, we're going to talk about the medium. I also want to talk about a very interesting rumor that has come out where apparently Microsoft is set to make another major Bethesda-sized acquisition sometime this year. And I think this is important to talk about because I do think it's actually likely to happen. We have to talk about the implications of this depending on what studio or gaming company they do end up buying, if it does happen, and how this is going to impact Sony and the PlayStation fan base. And then finally, we're going to finish off with a topic where we just kind of talk about Sony's continued silence. They haven't been completely silent, but they seem to be doing that thing again where they're kind of like hunched down, not really saying too much. And a lot of fans are like wondering, like, okay, like, when's the next big thing going to happen, and we kind of have to wait to find that out. So, Mr. Hamster, once again, you're saying that you say, I feel like the medium is getting too much unnecessary hate because it's an Xbox game. If it's like on all platforms, people might see it differently. It's hard to say. We definitely will dive into the hate or, whatever the conversation is around this game, the medium. I do 100% agree that because it's an Xbox exclusive, there are different conversations that are cropping up surrounding it that I feel like otherwise wouldn't be happening if it was. I don't necessarily know that the conversation would be geared more in a positive direction, but I do think the conversation itself would be different. So, we're going to dive into the first topic. Once again, guys, hit that like button to show the podcast your support and help it out. Sony delays Returnal and announces a really solid PlayStation Plus lineup for February. So I kind of just want to ask the question to you guys, how do we feel about Returnal's delay? It was delayed from March 19th, 2021 to April 30th, 2021, so roughly about a month. Does this signal that many of Sony's other exclusive games will now be pushed back? And I also want to ask you guys, how do you feel about February's PlayStation Plus games, specifically about Destruction All Stars? So this is essentially two questions or two topics kind of melded into one here. But I want to start with Returnal being delayed and just give my in-depth thoughts on that and what I think this means for the rest of the year when it comes to PlayStation exclusives. Primal Plasma, you're saying people get angry and frustrated when they are continuously trolled and gaslighted, and that is what Microsoft is doing to the players. Yeah, I mean, some people might think that that's like, oh, that's too dramatic, but I don't think it is because, just to speak to that for a second, yeah, I spent a lot of money and a lot of time, which those are two things that are valuable to me. I think they're valuable to most other people on the Xbox platform. And I just kept hoping and hoping that something will get better. They're going to release like, a banger at some point. And, I remember trying to be excited for Sea of Thieves and ultimately being very disappointed by it. I remember I was very excited for State of Decay 2, which I did enjoy, but it just didn't hit the mark. It was just lacking in so many areas. And then when Crackdown 3 came out and it got delayed, I bought the Xbox One X and I was like, this is what was the point of this? You know what I mean? Like there's all this power and you guys are not taking advantage of it. You don't have any games. So I do agree, man. Like people do get frustrated and they get fed up and again, I'm just tired of playing the waiting game with Xbox. Cardinal Music, you're saying sort of bummed that Returnal and Resident Evil 8 are a week apart. Not sure what I'll buy first. Yeah, actually, that's a really good point that I didn't even think about. I mean, I'll buy both if I'm able to because I'm very excited for both. Returnal's going to take more of a priority because, it's a PS5 exclusive and I own a PS5 and I want to, I think the game looks really fun. But Resident Evil 8 is a game I'm very much looking forward to as well. And yeah, I think that actually is interesting. I don't know if that's going to negatively impact the sales of Returnal at all. I didn't even consider that. I kind of forgot that, yeah, they're only a week apart. I do hope to get both, though. Dylan Wood, thank you for the super chat, buddy. You're saying, I just beat Spider Man Miles Morales, and I have to say it could have got Game of the Year, too. And I hope you and your family are doing better, by the way. Well, thank you for that, buddy. We are doing better. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I just recently completed Miles Morales as well. It took me so long because obviously there's been a lot going on and it's been difficult to find the time to play. Now I'm in the process of platinuming Spider-Man Miles Morales, and the gameplay you see in the background is me doing New Game Plus. So hopefully you enjoyed that gameplay. It can be difficult to record large chunks of gameplay, when you're trying to create content throughout the week. That's what I've noticed when doing this podcast. But I've been really enjoying Spider-Man Miles Morales. And I agree, like, what Insomniac Games was able to do in such a short period of time. Um, I don't think Miles Morales, just being brutally honest, was as good as Spider-Man 2018, but it was never meant to be. You know what I mean? In terms of quality and what they put into this title for the price point, I think it holds its own 100%. I think it told its own story, and I enjoyed that story. But I did like Spider-Man 2018 better. But I'm very interested to see, where the story leads next. There was a post-credit scene with Spider-Man Miles Morales that I'm not going to spoil, obviously, but it definitely got me excited for, what's going to be happening in the next proper Spider-Man sequel. But yeah, getting back to the medium, not the medium, Returnal. Returnal's delay, I'm perfectly fine with. They came out, they said, look, we're delaying the game from March 19th to April 30th. So it's about a month, not a big deal. But I do think that this does have greater implications. One thing I did forget is that Deathloop, which is a PlayStation exclusive as well, and I'm pretty sure it's a PS5 exclusive. I don't know if it's releasing on the PS4. Maybe you guys can let me know. But Deathloop is coming out in May. So from where I'm sitting right now, this is kind of how I see the first party shuffle being mapped out. So, we're looking at February. We're getting Destruction All Stars. Now, just to talk about Destruction All Stars for a moment here, it's not a game I'm extremely excited for. Frankly, I don't think anybody is because I just don't think it's one of those games. Destruction All Stars is a game that I think a lot of people looked at and they were like, oh, this looks like it could have potential. And then they saw that it was going to be sold at $70. And then 95% of those people immediately said, but even though it has potential, I'm not paying $70 for this game. I think that that became very obvious. So Sony made the smart decision to say, you know what? Let's strike a deal with the studio, Lucid, and we'll have them put their game into PlayStation Plus. And I think that that's going to really benefit Destruction All Stars significantly. Some people were upset. I know Deathloop is a timed exclusive, but still, it's going to be on the PlayStation for probably what, like a year, I think? Maybe less than that. I think it's going to be a year. But I think when it comes to Destruction All Stars, a lot of people are now excited for it because they're subscribed to PlayStation Plus and they are PS5 owners. And PS5 owners, and I can tell you this, we're looking for more stuff to play. We've been eating good, I guess you could say, since the launch of the PS5. But if you've completed Demon Souls, if you've completed Spider-Man, Sackboy, and you've been playing the third-party games, at this point, we're getting to that point where it's like, okay, we're ready for something new. Destruction All Stars, I think, is going to be, it's obviously the title that Sony is putting out for February, and the fact it will be on PlayStation Plus is going to save that game. I'm not extremely excited for it. I am looking forward to playing it though, and I'm really hoping that it can serve as one of these just kind of go-to fun to play multiplayer titles that's just easy to jump into with some friends. Doesn't have to be taken super seriously. And if I do like it enough and if it gets enough support, there's a chance that Destruction All Stars could be a title that I'm playing throughout the remainder of the year, maybe beyond that, depending on how good I feel like the gameplay loop is, right? It reminds me of Rocket League a little bit. And I don't know if it'll find the same success that Rocket League found, but it is worth noting that Rocket League found its success thanks to being on PlayStation Plus and being exposed to such a wide audience. I think the only thing that could work against Destruction All Stars, there are two things. I think it's the fact that it's just for PlayStation 5 owners, which kind of, inherently it's going to be difficult for the game because people are having a hard time buying PlayStation 5s and they're going to continue to have a hard time doing so. We're going to talk about that with the next topic. Actually, no, I think we could talk about that with this first topic because AMD just announced recently that they expect the struggle to remain for at least the first half of 2021. And I think that that has played a major role in Sony's decision to shuffle around their first party games. Like, I do believe that um, Returnal, the reason why it was delayed, I do believe, yeah, it probably needs more work, but I don't believe it's just that. I think that Sony was like, we kind of have to move things back a little bit because if the manufacturing of the PS5 console is still something that's very limited and it's not Sony's fault, it's just because there aren't enough chips being produced, then at that point, Sony's going to try to give current PlayStation 5 owners something, but they have to hold back the bigger stuff, not only for sales potential, but also because they need games to be able to push the PS5 unit, to say, hey, like, look, we have this new game coming out. Let's just say Horizon Forbidden West. Even though it is a PS4 game, I think that's a game a lot of people will be like, I'm going to go buy a PS5 for this because that's a game I'm really excited for. But if there aren't enough PS5s, then, it could potentially hurt the sales of that game because a lot of PS4 owners might be like, well, I know this game's coming out on PS4, but I really wanted to play it on PS5. So, what I'm trying to say is that the fact that this console is going to be scarce for so long, I feel like has just kind of forced Sony's hand in kind of moving everything back. And not only that, but the same applies to Microsoft with the Xbox Series consoles. And if there's one thing I think Sony is 100% paying attention to, is the fact that they have to be ready for Microsoft to announce some bigger games and eventually release some bigger games whenever that may happen. And they want to be able to compete against that? So Microsoft isn't really doing a whole lot of anything right now, understandably so. I mean, they did put out the Medium, but I mean, come on, that's not a game that I think Sony feels inclined to compete with at all, especially if it is a timed exclusive ultimately. And so I feel like, Destruction All Stars is the game that Sony's like, okay, we're going to put this out there for PlayStation 5 owners for February. So, we have all been saying, Sony, when are you going to have another state of play? Sony, when are you going to start talking more? When are you going to start building up the hype again for PlayStation 5 owners? And they did, right? Like they put out a state of play. It was 7 minutes long. It focused on Destruction All Stars. And it's like, is that really what we were hoping for? I'm not against it, nor am I complaining about it. I think it's perfectly fine. But I think we can all agree that when we think about Sony kind of talking again and bringing the excitement back, I don't think that that comes in the form of a 7 minute state of play for Destruction All Stars. I do think it helps, though. I think that that state of play really helped in kind of giving us a much better glimpse of like, okay, so this is what the game's going to be like. But I think February is going to be all about Destruction All Stars, for better or for worse. The question is, what else is Sony going to have to say over the course of February? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. There's a good chance Sony might not have that much to say, but we are getting closer to, Sony having to talk more to investors and reveal sales data and kind of talk more about what their plans are. And that's the only thing I'm hoping for. I hope that over the course of February, and this may just be wishful thinking, I hope that Sony kind of maps out a little bit more clearly what 2021 is going to look like. And I don't know if that's going to come in the form of another state of play, of a blog post, of just some type of announcement to investors. I don't know, but that's what I'm hoping for. So, February, we have Destruction All Stars. March, we were supposed to have Returnal. Now, April is when we will get Returnal. So the question is, well, what are we getting in March? Well, I think at this point it's safe to say we're most likely going to be getting Kenna Bridge of Spirits in March. And I think that that's a perfect game to come out in March. I say this because it's a game that actually does have a lot of hype around it because it looks really good. It is an indie game. I don't know if Kenna Bridge of Spirits, just like Destruction All Stars, I don't know if these are games that we can call the big AAA massive titles. I don't think it's that, but I do think Kenna looks like it has a lot of potential to be a really good game. And so I'm hoping that we get Kenna Bridge of Spirits in March because as far as I can see, that's really the only game that Sony could launch at that time. And there have been kind of rumblings that that's the release month that the developers are targeting for Kenna Bridge of Spirits. So February, we're looking at Destruction All Stars. March, we're looking at Kenna Bridge of Spirits. Then in April, we're looking at Returnal. I think the only unfortunate part about Returnal launching in April is it's launching literally at the very end of April, right? Like it's almost launching in May. I think that's okay though. So that's basically 3 straight months where we are getting PlayStation exclusives. And I think we're going to continue to eat pretty well. I don't know what the hype levels for each of these games are going to be. Returnal is the one I'm most concerned about within this 3 month time frame because Returnal, I mean, let's be honest, it's a game that Sony seems to be having a hard time and Housemarque seems to be having a hard time selling everybody on the fact that this is a AAA title, therefore it will be sold at a AAA price because I just feel like unfortunately a lot of people look at Returnal and they're like not convinced that it's worth $70. We've talked about this before and I think we'll know, like I said, I think we'll know whether or not it's a sales success or a sales failure if we see it, drop price rapidly or potentially even become a PlayStation Plus title. I don't know that that would be a bad thing, but we're going to have to see about that. So after April, we have Deathloop launching in May. Again, Deathloop is another title that I think looks good. It's not a game I'm, really excited for, but it has my interest. And I like this idea. Are you guys starting to see like the pattern here where I like this idea where it's like every month Sony wants to have a game release and it's unrealistic for every single month to be a massive AAA title. That's just completely unrealistic. But I do like the idea that they're like, hey, we want to try to give something to PlayStation owners once a month. And there will be those months where we do get those massive, big games like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, right? Um, and so in May, we're looking at Deathloop. I think Deathloop has potential. I think it looks good. And in June, this is where we have to question what about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart? This is a title that Sony kind of positioned it where we thought it was going to release within the first like 3 to 4 months. At least that's how I perceived it. The first 3 to 4 months of the PS5 being out. But this is where I'm talking about. I think Sony has kind of pushed things back a little bit. I think Sony has kind of made the decision where, okay, Ratchet and Clank's going to come out a little bit later than we originally were planning. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing because that is a PlayStation 5 only exclusive. Sony, again, they want to make sure for these PS5 only titles that there's as many PS5s out there that can possibly be out there. They don't want to set these games up for failure. I don't know if Sony was anticipating a 6 month drought, basically, where like we want to sell PS5s, people want to buy PS5s, but we just can't get enough of them out there, So I think Sony kind of wants to. Sir Speaks a Lot, you're asking, are super chats off? No, they are not. They shouldn't be anyway. I don't know if there's some type of problem where people are not seeing it pop up, but no, they shouldn't be turned off. Let me know if you guys are having an issue with that, because that obviously isn't good for me or the channel. But I do think that Sony they want to do two things. Okay, they want to make sure that they're constantly providing content to their fan base and PlayStation fans, but they also want to make sure that they're being strategic with when these games launch. And I think part of that strategy is kind of evaluating the hype levels and the excitement for some of these games, and like, is this a game that they absolutely need? Like, Returnal's a good example. Like, does Sony need Returnal to be a massive sales success? I don't think so. They don't want it to fail. They want it to obviously break even. But I don't think Sony is looking at a game like Returnal internally. And I'm just assuming, I could be completely wrong. I don't know how Sony views this stuff. But I don't think they're looking at a game like Returnal and saying, we need this to be just a huge hit, a huge sales success. That's what we need. I don't think they're doing that. Same with a game like Kenna Bridge of Spirits, with a game like Deathloop. I think that they want Deathloop to sell well. But I just think that they look at games like, say, Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, even Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart differently. Like, I think that they expect Ratchet and Clank to sell better than Returnal, obviously, and Kenna Bridge of Spirits and Deathloop. And because of that, I think that's why they're like, maybe we need to kind of push Ratchet and Clank back a little bit further, so that way we can give it the best possible opportunity for success on the PlayStation 5 console that we can. Dylan Wood, let me read your super chat real quick. Let me show off my Press X podcast mug here, just casually, right? Dylan, you're saying, I feel like it will be a dry year for games. I think Horizon Zero Dawn, I think you mean Horizon Forbidden West, will be the biggest game of the year, and the second will be Ratchet and Clank. Well, honestly, I don't blame you for having that outlook, like the idea that it could be a dry game year for games. I think it depends on your perspective, right? And this is where it truly is subjective because there's a lot of people I've seen who are extremely excited for a game like Kenna Bridge of Spirits. And so for them, it's like if that game comes out this year, that's a big deal for them, right? To whereas other people may not be as excited for a game like that. Other people might be much more excited for, say, a game like you said, Horizon Forbidden West or God of War Ragnarok. And we don't know if God of War is actually going to be coming out this year for sure, but Horizon will definitely. I don't think that game's, even if that game does get delayed, I think it's still going to come out in 2021. And they did say it's coming out in the second half of 2021. So, with that being said, I think that it really just kind of comes down to this idea if Sony releases a game every month, and so, most of the months are smaller, like double A titles, or maybe like a hybrid of a double A, triple A game, like a double A and a half game, I guess, if you want to call it that. The question is, will you be satisfied with that? And then also getting those bigger triple A releases kind of sprinkled throughout the year. Me personally, I'm very excited at that notion and idea. I think it's unrealistic to expect Sony or any major game publisher to have a triple A game every month. But again, that's where I think it kind of is subjective. If you're just into the bigger games, then the year might end up feeling a little bit more dry. But it really does come down to, honestly, and I'm telling you guys, like, this is very important. I really think the idea of this being a dry year comes down to, you know, when exactly these manufacturers can really boost production of these new consoles. Because if we see a situation where going into July, August, and September, where AMD is still having trouble producing enough chips, that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be a problem for Sony and Microsoft, and that's going to alter everybody's plans. Greg Dillon 117, you're saying I want to see God of War Ragnarok gameplay trailer. You want to see a God of War Ragnarok gameplay trailer? Me too, buddy. I think that that's going to be a very, very exciting time when we finally see that God of War Ragnarok gameplay. I think that that's going to be like a, if we do, I think we will see that this year. I can't guarantee, obviously, that God of War Ragnarok will release in 2021, but I feel very confident in saying we will certainly see the first proper trailer. And I think that when that happens, that's going to be like a highlight of the year. I really do think that. Sir speaks a lot. You're saying, got it. Ahem. MBG, I got 3,000 game stonks and I can finally afford your feet picks. This is Monkey is Flying to the Edge of the Universe. Hold the line, boys. I'm not going to lie, Sir Speaks a Lot. I cannot follow everything that's going on in your mind, man. But yeah, that GameStop situation with the stock market, what a bizarre thing that's happening, right? Like, who would have thought that this wide reaching scenario with the stock market, who would have thought that GameStop would be at the center of it? Pretty crazy thing, honestly, that's going on. I haven't been following it too closely, but that is a crazy situation for sure. Thank you for that, Sir Speaks a Lot. Matt Carney, you're saying I'm having a hard time believing that both Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok are releasing in the same year. It's crazy, lol. Yeah, to be honest, I do understand the disbelief there. Like it is difficult to imagine that because those are those are two, I mean, absolutely colossal games. And my reasoning for thinking that Sony is like whether or not Sony's actually going to be able to release both of those games this year remains to be unseen, or remains to be seen. I mean to say, like I said, Horizon for sure will release this year. The big question is God of War Ragnarok releasing this year? The only reason I can think to myself that Sony wants to do that Going back to something Jim Ryan said a while ago, and this was kind of, I think, before we started to, realize that the PS5 and the Xbox Series X were going to be way more scarce than we originally imagined. He kind of, he made it clear, Jim Ryan, that Sony wants to have people adopt the PS5 at a faster rate than we've ever seen before. Now, the idea of doing that during the middle of a global pandemic, well, that's, I think it's a double-edged sword because in one way it's like, well, during a global pandemic, the chances of you achieving that probably skyrocket because a lot more people are going to be home, wanting to game, wanting to escape. And so the idea that you're going to be able to sell many more consoles, I don't think is far-fetched. The idea that you'll be able to produce that many consoles, I think is the problem that we're running into. And so this idea that they would want to get two of these massive, because let's be honest, Horizon Forbidden West, especially God of War Ragnarok, these are system seller games. These are major system selling games. And the idea that Sony would want to get both of these games out during the second half of 2021, presumably Horizon Forbidden West first, maybe in September or October, and then God of War Ragnarok in most likely November, right? There's only one reason they want to do that. That's to sell a ton, just a ton of PS5 units, right? So I think if we do see God of War Ragnarok delayed into 2022, I think it could be because the game just simply isn't ready. I think that there's a chance for that to happen. But I'm actually kind of leaning more towards if God of War Ragnarok does get delayed to 2022, it's more likely it will be delayed because there aren't enough PS5s to sell still. Because again, look at what we're seeing with Returnal. Again, do I think Returnal needed that extra polish? Maybe, but I feel like it's more so because they don't have enough PS5s out there. Like they want to give Returnal the best possible chance. Same with a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart to sell well as PS5 only titles. And we're kind of Sony's hitting a wall right now, as well as Microsoft with these consoles. Luca, you're saying hi. Hello. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. And so I just, we're looking at February, March, April, May. We know what games, well, I can't say that definitively because we don't know for sure that Kenna Bridge of Spirits is launching in March, but it looks likely that that's what the next 4 months roughly, are going to look like, 4 to 5 months. And so I think that the question is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Could that release in March? Could that release in April or May? Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. But I think Ratchet and Clank is going to be one of the bigger titles that Sony does release this year. And I think it's likely that game will probably launch in June. I kind of forgot that Deathloop was coming out in May. But at the same time, like June could be the time when Sony's getting ready to have some big major announcements once again. Who knows what it's going to be like in June, right? Who knows what E3 is going to be like, if E3 is even going to be a thing. Who knows if Sony's going to want to have some major announcements then. So they also kind of have to consider this idea of like, when are we going to release these big games? Do we want to release these big games around the same time that we're making big game announcements? I don't know. Sony kind of did that with The Last of Us Part 2, and I think it worked out fine for them, all things considered. So, yeah, I mean, we have other titles as well that are slated for this year. Ghostwire Tokyo is another one that I think is, if that trailer is to be believed, the trailer has since been amended, but if that trailer is to be believed, Ghostwire Tokyo is coming out in like October. Yeah, we also have Gran Turismo 7. You're saying I'm overthinking this. I might be overthinking it. Yeah. It's we do have Gran Turismo 7. We have smaller titles like The Little Devil Inside, I think is the name of the game. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of factors at play right now. Yeah, there is. Well, the thing about Final Fantasy 16 is that game confirmed to be targeting next year. I'm pretty sure it's not, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. And that's, yeah, Final Fantasy 16 is another one that like I kind of forget about simply because I'm not a big Final Fantasy fan. But when I do kind of pay attention, I realize like, wow, like that's a massive title that Sony's going to have exclusively, on the PS5. And I don't know if it's cross gen either. I think it might be, but I highly doubt I highly doubt that Final Fantasy is coming out in 2021, but who knows? Anything is possible. But yeah, dude, Sony has it locked in, man. They have it locked in. I really do believe at this point Sony's biggest issue that they're facing really is just console manufacturing. I think that if Sony had 20 million consoles to sell, they would sell all 20 million of those consoles in the next 2 to 3 months. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I think that Sony would want that. So yeah, that's pretty much the first topic. We spent a long time on that topic, but kind of focusing on this 2021 reshuffling of the PlayStation exclusive lineup. The point is, I think some things are going to move around. I think that some things might come a little bit later than we were expecting, but I do believe that you're saying it's PS5 and PC only for Final Fantasy 16. Okay. Yeah, I forget. There's been so many games announced, it's easy to forget about all of them. But I do think that things are looking really, really good for PlayStation fans. And I do think 2021 is going to be one of the bigger years for Sony. I just think it's getting off to a slow start. And I do think that slow start is because, um, you know, the global pandemic affecting game development timelines as well as production timelines. I think that's really the only thing that's getting in the way right now. Jason RPG or JSN RPG, you're saying I'll take the slower release schedule of Sony exclusives if necessary over the medium and Halo for the entire year. Yeah, I mean, when you do look at the comparison of kind of mapping out the 2021 release schedule for both Sony and Microsoft. I mean, Microsoft, they did put out this list of all their games, and it's like they do have a lot, you know, but the problem with their list is it seems that there's only one big AAA title, that is Halo Infinite. To whereas with Sony, Sony has Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Horizon Forbidden West, and potentially God of War Ragnarok, as well as games like Deathloop, Ghostwire Tokyo, which are AAA games, and Returnal, which is also a AAA game. So Sony seems to have much more in the AAA space than Microsoft does. And I do agree, like, I do like Sony's approach better. That's not to say that the games that Microsoft does have lined up will all be very small and not good. We don't know. But yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. We'll talk more about this when we get to the medium. But honestly, I'm not feeling like I'm missing out on much by the medium not being on PlayStation right now. And I don't know that the medium is a game. It would be a game that if it released exclusively on PlayStation, yeah, I would try it for sure and I would play it. But that's not, to me, I almost feel like that is a game where it's like, it's just not on my radar in a big way. Jamal Harris, you're saying, what games are you currently playing on your PS5? I just started Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I'm loving it so far. Keep up the good work, bro. Your vids are fire. Well, thank you so much, man. I always appreciate the support that you guys show the videos, and I always love hearing that you guys enjoy it. Really, gives me more motivation. What I'm playing currently is Spider-Man Miles Morales. I'm trying to get the platinum for that. I've been playing, when I'm just not really like fully there, like I'm very tired and exhausted. My go-to games have just been playing some Call of Duty, a couple games, even playing PUBG recently, just with my buddies, just because it's like that's my comfort food games. Those are my comfort food games. Just kind of, not looking to play anything seriously, but I'm looking forward to playing Destruction All Stars, and I'm certainly looking forward to playing Control on the PS5 as well. Those are two games I'm really looking forward to. Like, I am very interested in Destruction All Stars. Like, I say interested because my excitement isn't high, but I'm very interested to play it, and I'm mainly interested to find out, like, is it going to hook me in? Because this, we don't get multiplayer exclusive PlayStation games very often, and I'm just interested to see how this goes. So I'm glad to hear you're enjoying Assassin's Creed. The Caped Crusader, You're saying, do you fear that Sony might rush God of War Ragnarok just for the sake of boosting PS5 sales? No, I don't think Sony will rush anything. To be brutally honest, I think Sony, the executives that make those decisions, I think they have proven at this point, and especially when you look at what happened with Cyberpunk 2077, Sony is certainly taking notes alongside every other video game publisher when they saw what happened with Cyberpunk. I don't think Sony would rush anything. And to be honest, I don't think that they have a need to. I think that Sony, and this is just my speculation, I think Sony's problem right now isn't whether or not they have to rush things. I think the problem Sony's facing right now is they have to push things back. Like now they're having trouble deciding, like, wait, should we release this now? Is this the best time to release it? Because I think, God of War, I could be wrong about this. For all we know, God of War could practically be finished and it's already in the polishing stage. I mean, that's a bold assumption on my part, but that could very well be the situation because one of the things that people need to remember about the PS5 hardware and the way it was designed, a lot of people I think forget, understandably so, because we're pretty far removed from it now. One of the things Mark Cerny, as the architect behind it, kept emphasizing is they want to make it easy to develop for, to the point, not easy just in the fact that like, oh, it's just easier, but part of that is you can develop your games much quicker on the PS5 than previous generations of hardware. I think that's playing a huge role for Sony, and that's something that was important for them because Sony's idea of, well, how do we speed up content output, for our smaller games and our bigger games? It's not, well, let's consolidate all of them into a service so we can justify kind of potentially rushing some games out. No, that's not what Sony did. Sony said, let's take a different approach and let's streamline the hardware itself for developers and just streamline game development so that way it's, there doesn't have to be a sacrifice of quality. That's what I'm trying to say. So to answer your question, no, I do not think Sony will try to push out any of their games at all. And I think that they're past that point. If they ever were at that point, they're way past that. If Sony needs to, if a developer goes to Sony and says, we need more time, like we just need more time, I think Sony has no problem saying, okay, we're gonna have to delay. We'll give you 3 more months. I think Sony has no problem doing that. We have Chase. You're saying Sony put Returnal, a $70 new IP with no hype, right next to Resident Evil 8, a $60 behemoth. Horrible decision. Yeah, when you put it that way, I can understand. I can understand that viewpoint. And I don't know, somebody had mentioned this earlier about how close Returnal is to Resident Evil 8. I don't know for sure, and I feel like I can't make that call as to whether or not that's going to affect it. I think they are two very different games. To be honest, the reason why I think Sony doesn't care, like at this point, I have to assume, considering they put it right next to Resident Evil, I don't think Sony cares too much about sales for Returnal. You know why? Because I think Sony, and they have access to this data, and I think we've also seen this proven to be true in the past. Sony, I think, is aware that by the time April rolls around, the end of April, PS5 owners, I don't want to say we're going to be desperate. It's not that, but it's just the hardware is still so new and there's going to still be so many new people buying PS5s that they're looking for like they're going to buy up games. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this past week, we talked about a massive surge in the UK for game sales. They surged by like 324% specifically on the PS5. Hitman 3, 50% of that game's sales entirely, 50% were on the PS5. And you know why? It's because this is new hardware, and what people want with new hardware, they want to buy games. They're going to buy all the games. That's just something that's going to happen. And so I feel like Sony's kind of banking on this idea that the PS5 hardware is brand new. Anybody who owns it, they're going to be looking for games that they can just play on that hardware. Like people who buy console hardware, they're always looking what games are just, available on this hardware. And I think they're going to see Returnal and I think that they're going to buy it. So I think Sony's taking a little bit of a chance here. I do think that they're kind of banking on this notion that, yeah, they're people are just going to buy Returnal because they're going to be looking for something to play. That could backfire on them. You know, a lot of people may decide, I'm going to save my $70 and wait for Returnal to go down in price, and I'm going to buy Resident Evil 8 in the meantime. That could very well be something that happens, and that could impact Returnal. I hope Returnal succeeds only because I don't know what the future of Housemarque looks like if this game flops. I think it needs to at the least break even and eventually maybe turn a little bit of profit. But if this game flops and it like immediately gets dropped to like $50 or $40 or maybe even makes its way to PS Plus, Housemarque is a studio, for those who don't know what they were previously working on, they were working on a battle royale shooter and they realized very quickly that it's not going to work. And that game, that battle royale shooter was guaranteed to fail and it probably would have ended their studio. So if Returnal ends up failing, I don't know. I don't know. It could be concerning for the health of that studio overall. Fabian Tovar, thank you for that $5 super chat, buddy. But anyway, we do have to move on to the next topic because I spent literally an entire hour practically, or 45 minutes straight on this single topic. So yeah, let me guys, hit that like button. We have over 800 people here hanging out with me. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit that like button. The next topic we're going to discuss and I'm probably not going to spend too much time on this one because I don't have all that much to say about it, but I am interested in it. Talking about the rumor of more PlayStation 4 exclusives getting PS5 upgrades and enhancements. So there's been talk of multiple PS4 exclusives getting PS5 upgrades. This comes from an individual who has apparently given out correct information in the past about certain things. The individual's name is Navtra. I think it's from the Reset Era forums. And apparently, this individual is confirming that Death Stranding is, in fact, getting an extended edition for both PS4 and PS5. And the reason why it's being called an extended edition is because it is going to offer more story content, which is the part I'm most interested in. They're also saying that they have heard that there was a PS5 upgrade in the works for The Last of Us Part 2, but they haven't really heard much about it, so they're not sure what's going on with it. They don't know if it's something that's going to continue to be worked on and we're going to hear about it eventually, or if it's something that maybe was being worked on, but then Naughty Dog kind of decided and this doesn't make much sense to me, but maybe they decided it's, not in their best interest for whatever reason to spend their time and resources on that. So, first of all, talking about Death Stranding, for those who have been following the channel for a little while, this was a game I was very excited for because I'm a big Hideo Kojima fan. The Metal Gear Solid franchise, I always say this, is one of my favorites of all time, truly. And, I'm always excited to hear about what Hideo Kojima is going to do next. And so I really enjoyed Death Stranding. I did fully understand why a lot of people didn't. The gameplay of Death Stranding was unorthodox. It was very different. And even I was nervous when playing it because I was like, I don't know about this. Like, this is just not the gameplay loop I was expecting from Death Stranding. And as I got deeper and deeper into it, you realize that there's a lot more to it. And yeah, the game wasn't perfect. There were times when playing it where it's like, okay, this definitely feels a little bit like unexciting. But overall, it told a great story. I thought the story was great. And that's why I'm extremely excited potentially about this being a real thing. Because my question is, what story content could this be? If they're going to try to resell the game, I have to imagine that it's going to have to be something relatively significant. But I also am very excited at just how good these games will look on the PS5. That's something that I'm obviously excited about. Like, Death Stranding and The Last of Us Part 2 were some of the best looking games on the PS4 Pro. And seeing what they could do on a visual level with like what 4.2 teraflops of, compute power, not that that's the be all end all, it's not, but thinking about what they could do visually with the PS5, that's very exciting to me because the games I've seen so far in the PS5 look absolutely incredible. And I think Death Stranding and The Last of Us Part 2 are two games that would benefit tremendously from the visual upgrade. 4K 60 FPS potentially with a little bit of ray tracing here and there. Yeah, that sounds incredible. But specifically with Death Stranding, what they could do, what Kojima Productions could do with the DualSense specifically. Because, guys, anybody who has played Death Stranding, you already know how exciting it sounds to play that game with full DualSense support. That's going to honestly, and I know this sounds like an exaggeration, but again, if you've played Death Stranding, you know what I'm talking about. You know I'm not exaggerating. The gameplay mechanics of that game intertwined with the features of the DualSense will enhance that game more than pretty much 90% of games. And so I know it sounds crazy, but I almost get more excited these days to hear that developers are supporting the DualSense features than say something like ray tracing. I like ray tracing, it's impressive, but it's just a different enhancement than feeling the controller and feeling that I've said it before and I'll say it again. Sony really went all in with the immersion factor with the DualSense, and I think it's paying off huge for them. So, something else when it comes to PS5 upgrades for PS4 titles, titles that people are also wondering about. What about Ghost of Tsushima? I don't think Ghost of Tsushima is going to get a standalone enhancement. We could maybe see that. I think it depends on whether or not they want to continue to support Ghost of Tsushima Legends, the multiplayer game, because we could see maybe a re-release of Ghost of Tsushima where and I would buy this in a heartbeat. The idea that we see Ghost of Tsushima completely redone from the ground up for the PS5, and it comes with the Ghost of Tsushima Legends also being completely redone. Not only would that breathe new life into Ghost of Tsushima Legends, but could you guys imagine what that game would look like fully enhanced on the PS5? Yeah, I don't know, man. That's exciting. Another title that people are wondering about, as I am wondering about, because I know Sony's going to have to do something with it. Bloodborne. What is Sony going to do with Bloodborne? Well, we've heard many rumors that apparently Sony is planning on fully remastering and remaking Bloodborne. And there's also, part of these rumors were saying that there will actually be some cut content as well that'll be incorporated and included. And I do think it makes sense that these games such as Bloodborne, like it's a game that makes you think about The Last of Us Part 2 and you think about Bloodborne, and I feel like these are two games that make perfect sense to get PS5 enhancements, and people are wondering why haven't they? I think that's why. I think it's because Sony's going to do a lot more with them than maybe we were originally anticipating. Patrick, you're saying, hi, keep up the good work. I like to listen to your videos and your podcast. I hope everything is going well with your family, and I want to help out with some contribution. Well, thank you so much for that, buddy. That really does help me out. Yeah, I'm not one who usually likes to ask for stuff like that. Me and my family, we have fallen on some tough times recently, and you guys really came through in a big way with the last podcast. Honestly, you guys just I I can't express how thankful I am for you guys doing that. And any contribution, whether it's just something as simple as being here and watching and leaving a like, whether it's donating a super chat, whether it's becoming a channel member, it goes a long way for me and it goes a long way for the channel. And things have greatly slowed down here on the channel. And I think that that's expected. We're in January, things always slow down, but any contribution really helps, man. And I really do appreciate it, and I'm glad to hear that you do enjoy the content because I certainly enjoy making it. So thank you for that, buddy. Um, but I gotta tell you, you know, if Sony is planning to enhance these games and do more with them, I feel like if you want a good idea of Sony's plans, honestly, look no further than, as you can see here, Spider-Man Miles Morales. The reason I say this is because Sony basically showed their hand with what they want to do. You know what I mean? Like how they want to approach remastered games on the PS5. I think this was a big question. I mean, let me ask you, who's talking about Xbox Smart Delivery anymore? Is anybody? Like, I literally haven't seen or heard a single thing about Xbox Smart Delivery because I feel like it was just a little marketing gimmick to just kind of make, you know, Xbox fans feel more comfortable and also potentially make Sony look bad if they wanted to remaster their games. Now, I was a little bit concerned when Spider-Man Remastered was announced, and I'm like, okay, they're kind of locking it behind. I don't know. By the way, can somebody tell me, is Spider-Man Remastered available for purchase separately yet? I feel like it's not, right? Like I feel like that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it has, but one thing I will tell you is after looking at Digital Foundry's breakdown and explanation of Spider-Man Remastered and listening to Insomniac Games explain everything that went into it, and then also seeing it for myself, yeah, you do become aware that this is not just a simple upres. This is not just a simple, you know, click of a couple buttons and boom, it's PS5 ready. No, we've seen that implemented with games like Days Gone, with games like God of War, right? Where it's like these games and Ghost of Tsushima, they do get that enhancement, that 60 FPS bump, and maybe a slight, ever so slight resolution bump, and that's the part that's maybe a little bit easier for them, where it's not completely redoing the game. Um, Geo's Gaming Corner, I see you, man. I see you. Well, I'm glad to know that I can help, man. I do appreciate your support, and it always makes me feel good knowing that I can help people out as well. I do see you. Um, but yeah, I just I think that Sony's plan. Let's just use The Last of Us Part Two as an example. People are wondering, when is Naughty Dog going to release the big PS5 patch for The Last of Us Part 2? Because regardless of my feelings on the game, I will tell you, technically, visually, probably the most impressive game I've ever seen. Honestly. Like, it's a technical marvel. And that's a game, in my opinion, that you do not just give it a 60 FPS patch. I mean, you could for the PS5 and it would still look great. It would still look fantastic, right? But that's a game that I think people would genuinely be excited to see, like, what can this game look like when it's fully, like, it's not fully made for the PS5 in the traditional sense, but just kind of like remade or remastered for the PS5. What can it look like? Because we saw what a game like Spider-Man, remastered can look like on the PS5. And so I think what we're going to see, if I had to guess, is one thing we know that Naughty Dog is for sure in the middle of developing right now is the multiplayer component for The Last of Us. It's going to be separate from The Last of Us Part 2. It's going to be a standalone game. It could be free to play. I don't think that's necessarily likely, but I think it's going to be a standalone multiplayer Last of Us game set in the Last of Us universe. And I think what's likely to happen is we're going to see that sold at, say, the same price point that we saw Spider-Man Miles Morales. On PS4, it'll be $40. On PS5, it'll be $50. But if you want, you can pay $70 and you can get The Last of Us Part 2 remastered with it. I think that has the potential to upset people, though, because again, we did see a lot of people get upset at Spider-Man Remastered because a lot of people were like, this should be free. But I don't think we should be the ones determining that until we actually play it, right? Like, and I really do mean that, because I legitimately was one of these people where I was like, come on, Sony, like, you should be giving out Spider-Man Remastered for free. But then when I played, let's say, Ghost of Tsushima, that enhancement that they put out for the PS5 versus playing Spider-Man Remastered, huge difference. There's a huge difference. And you can very clearly see that, okay, now I understand why they are charging people for the remaster. Because, yeah, it's a remaster. They're not just tweaking a couple small things here and there. The whole thing, it's a complete visual overhaul in a significant way. So I do think that that's likely what Sony's going to do with The Last of Us Part 2. I think that Death Stranding is another one where if it is truly getting an extended edition, I think Death Stranding is one where we're going to see that massive visual enhancement on the PS5, but I think in order for them to resell it on the PS4, they are going to have to add that extra story content. And I think that'll go a long way. And who knows, maybe we could see some DLC for The Last of Us Part 2 as well that they could try to add in there to justify this. This is why we're reselling a remaster or selling you a remaster. And it will be, I think we're going to see the same thing with Bloodborne. Honestly, I do think it's likely we will see the same thing with Bloodborne. I don't see any reason at this point why we wouldn't. Bloodborne is a game that I'm going to be real with you guys. Yeah, I'll buy that. I will buy a Bloodborne remaster. People, yeah, you say I'm licking the corporate boot. I'm not licking the corporate boot, man. I'm just being real. At least I think I'm being realistic in why. So, like, look, if Sony wants to charge money for something, you don't have to buy it. All I'm trying to convey is that I was skeptical about the Spider-Man remaster. I bought into it, I played it, and I immediately realized, okay, now I understand why they wanted to charge me $20 for this, because this is not just a basic visual enhancement. It's just not. And to be honest, I haven't seen Microsoft put anything out in terms of their free upgrades that matches what we've seen with Spider-Man Remastered. I haven't. So, it is what it is. My best advice is if you don't like that, and I'm not being snarky when I say this, I'm being honest. Like, if you don't like the idea of Sony charging for remastered games on the PS5, don't buy them. Like, I'm being like the best way to send your message is don't buy it, don't support it. But if you are okay with it, then by all means, go ahead. Josh Z, you're saying, hey, MBG, do you think modern games on average are not quite as well designed as older games, sixth generation games or earlier? I feel like modern games sacrifice good design and gameplay and story for graphics and scope. There are examples, I think is what you're trying to say. I don't know if you followed that up or not, but I mean, you're saying there are exceptions, but I feel like older games are better quality. I feel like, really, hold on one second, Josh Z. Benjamin, you're saying Gears Hivebusters MBG. I'm not familiar with that. Is that free DLC, I think? Was that free DLC that was given to Gears 5? I would have to look into that. Maybe that is an example. But I would have to look into it. I feel like I can't speak to it yet, but I'll take your word for it. And yeah, really quick, Josh, I'm going to get to your question. Just one last thing I want to say on this topic. Like, I'm not going to sit here and make it sound like to you guys that Sony isn't trying to squeeze out as much money as they can. Of course they are. Like, they want your money. They want my money. They want everybody's money, right? Like, that's why they would do this. It's not like it's not like I'm thanking Sony, like, oh, thank you, Sony, for charging me money for a remastered game. No, it's just I have to evaluate if I feel that that's worth it for me, as everybody else should. I don't think it's so serious that it's like, you want to charge $20 for Spider-Man Remastered. What's wrong with you? You're insane. Like, I think the insane part was locking it behind Miles Morales, honestly. But we have to make those decisions for ourselves, I mean, hey, if Sony wanted to give out these remasters for free, I'm not going to complain, But once you understand that they're trying to make money, if you're saying for Bloodborne you'd pay $70, though, I know it wouldn't be that much. Definitely not. I mean, it'd be crazy to sell a Bloodborne remastered for 70. But Josh, to get to your question, I do think it's an interesting one. And to be honest, I feel like it's one that it's nuanced, right? Like, because I do feel that game design over the years has changed so dramatically compared to like the way it was done. I feel like there have been improvements, vast improvements, but I do also feel that, yeah, there are just some things that feel like they've been sacrificed, where I do agree with you that sometimes it really does feel, unfortunately, that it's more, style over substance in some cases, not all cases. A game I'm extremely excited for, and I think this is a good example. I don't know if like Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2. I know you're talking like about older games, but Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 are two games to me that those were games that it's a gamer's game. Like it's gameplay, 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 and they were just phenomenal in my opinion. They were just so fun where I didn't care about the graphics, I didn't care about the story, although I did like the characters and I was always interested in learning more about the characters and the world. Like there was room for that, but what I cared about was the experience, the gameplay experience. So a game like Back for Blood, which is like it's not like they're just like we're Left for Dead 3. We're not trying to be anything special. We're not trying to sell you on the best graphics. We're not trying to sell you on the biggest, most intense story. We're not trying to sell you on some new crazy multiplayer. They're just going back to the basics. And the basics are have some fun with friends shooting zombies and trying to survive. It's such a simple concept. And to me, that's like generated so much hype. And it is nostalgia, of course, but it's that simplicity, and I feel like that's where you do kind of see like a lot of games these days. It really does feel like they're trying so hard to sell you on like this gimmick or that gimmick or like check out this crazy new thing. And it's like, is that really adding anything of substance? And it's like, well, I'm not so sure. And especially when you do look at like older game design as well, the thing about when you look at older games is there wasn't really too much they could do in the way that they can do it today when it comes to, graphical fidelity. Like there was a limit, obviously, and there was always those games that were trying to impress, but even gameplay, they were limited in their gameplay design in the sense that how do we make this gameplay loop as fun as it can possibly be? Because that's probably the only thing that people are actually going to be interested in with our game, and I feel like that just goes a long way. And in impact, another good example is, and I know that this is still more of a modern game, but Dark Souls. When I think of Dark Souls, like, yeah, there's an insane amount of lore there and story, but that's not what sold the game. What sold the game was gameplay, just like hardcore, raw, like brutal, in like deep gameplay. And I feel like that the reason why that game succeeded so much is just for that reason and that reason alone. Like at the end of the day, we do have to remember why we play video games, to interact with them, to play them. They say the saying gameplay is king. Yeah, like I love a great story. I love in-depth characters and good writing and environmental storytelling, and I love great graphics just as much as the next person. But at the end of the day, a game needs to be fun to play, right? If it's not, then what do you have? You have gimmicks. You have nothing, honestly. So appreciate the question, Josh. I think it's an interesting one, and I feel like I'm not doing it justice because I know you're referencing like much older games, and I'm more of a new age gamer. I kind of started with the N64 and the PS1, and I was very young as well, so it's hard to really think back to what like back then. Like I didn't think what is gameplay design, when playing the PS1 or even the PS2. But MBG, when's the new merch coming? What do you mean by new merch? Because I've revamped my merch line. I simplified it. I streamlined it. If you're talking about new merch as in like new logos or new designs, I don't have an answer for that yet. Maybe sometime later this year. We'll have to see. Yeah, guys, if you want, go buy some merch if you want to help support me directly. Go buy a Press X podcast mug. Go buy an All Right Guy shirt. I mean, you asked. I figured I'll just plug it. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say when it comes to the PlayStation 5. Yeah, the new designs and hoodies. It should be there. It should be displayed at the bottom of my videos. So if it's not, go over to the store tab on my YouTube homepage. All right, so that's going to do it for that topic. There's not too much I can say about it. It is just a rumor. It's coming from an individual who apparently has been correct about things in the past, and it wouldn't surprise me because it makes sense. Death Stranding, The Last of Us Part 2, these titles getting enhancements, why not? Whether or not we're going to be charged for them, I think that's the big question that you know, Josh, you're saying it's an interesting conversation with no right or wrong answer. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's to me, it's one of those questions where there are no right or wrong answers, but it's always with a question that loaded, it's like there has to be a little bit of nuance to it. You know what I mean? Mm. All right. So, guys, hit that like button. We still have over 800 people here hanging out with me. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes. And let's see if we can push way past that and get to 500 likes. Likes really do help the podcast. So, the next topic we're discussing is the Medium. The Medium released on the Xbox Series X and S, and it seems to have received okay reviews. I think it's sitting at like a 70 or 73 on Metacritic. And apparently, it looks very likely that this game is, in fact, going to come to PlayStation at some point because they sent out limited edition medium themed controllers to influencers. And for some reason, on the packaging, they put the PlayStation symbols. Now, why they would do that, I don't know. A lot of people got upset with me. I put out a tweet that has since been deleted. Guys, Twitter is just so difficult to deal with sometimes because, my God, man, it can just be the most toxic cesspool. And I get it. Like, people are like, dude, your comment sections are toxic. YouTube's toxic. I get it. There's toxicity everywhere, no matter where you go on the internet. But my God, Twitter, from my time being on it, it reaches another level. It's like advanced toxicity over there. It's crazy. It's not all bad though. But I put out this tweet in regards to the Medium that I since deleted, not because I regret saying it, but because I realized that the way I worded it, people were not understanding what I meant and they were taking it the wrong way. And I was getting a lot of hate. And I'm like, all right, I'm not trying to deal with this right now. I wasn't trying to upset a bunch of people. If that was my intent, I would have kept the tweet out there, but I'm not trying to do that. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to be honest. And the tweet that I put out, it had to do with review scores, specifically with GameSpot. And I was just so surprised to see that GameSpot gave the Medium a 9 out of 10 review score. And I immediately remembered because like I saw people bring it up, they were like, GameSpot's the same outlet that gave Days Gone a 5 out of 10. A 5 out of 10. And what I was trying to communicate is that not that the Medium isn't necessarily a 9 out of 10 game because I haven't played the Medium. And that was a lot of thing that was the thing I saw brought up most is, well, did you play the Medium? How can you talk about the Medium if you didn't play it? No, you're right. I didn't play it and I'm probably not going to. So I cannot speak to the quality. However, I have seen the Medium. I have watched gameplay of the Medium. I've watched extended gameplay of the Medium. And I don't know if it's a 9 out of 10 game. Just based off of what I've seen, I would be hard pressed to believe the Medium is a 9 out of 10 game. Maybe it is though. If I played it, maybe I'd love it and be like, whoa, like this is way better than I thought. And yes, I know you're bringing it up to, different people review different games, right? The same person who reviewed Days Gone didn't review the Medium. I fully understand that, but we do have to also understand that when we're looking at an outlet, a gaming publication, right? And basically it's like, GameSpot reviews Days Gone and then GameSpot reviews the Medium. All I'm trying to say is this. It's just a little bit, it's difficult and to be honest, like I don't take GameSpot reviews seriously. I don't take pretty much any reviews that seriously. I prefer like individual reviews, like finding individuals that like I have a similar mindset, we have similar taste. I prefer to listen to individuals rather than like, outlets or publications because of that reason. Because GameSpot wants to tell me that Days Gone is a 5 out of 10 and that the Medium's a 9 out of 10. And I understand that they're two different people telling me that, so it is subjective. But to me, that's just still baffling. And all I was ultimately trying to convey, guys, is that I don't care if you want to tell me the Medium's a 9 out of 10. I don't care. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to complain about that. But I do care if you also want to tell me that Days Gone is a 5 out of 10. Days Gone is absolutely not a 5 out of 10. And there was a lot of people who were like trying to dunk on me and like, Days Gone sucks. Days Gone was an absolute mess when it launched. These are all things that I've acknowledged in the past. And people took it as that I'm crying about it. Like I'm really upset. I'm just so upset that the medium got a 9 out of 10. Like, no, if I'm upset about anything and I mean, realistically speaking, I'm not actually upset about it, guys. Like I really don't care. I just think it makes for some interesting conversation in our hemisphere here. Um, if there's anything that is a little bit disturbing to me, it's like, why did GameSpot give this a 5 out of 10? Like, I don't understand. And I've made videos covering this stuff. Like, yes, Days Gone, you're saying, to be fair, they didn't give Days Gone a bad review before the patch. Um, didn't they give Days Gone a bad review because it was before the patch? Yes. And that was a huge factor where for some reason a lot of these review outlets were experiencing terrible bugs and terrible, glitches in the game because they were reviewing it pre day one patch, which fixed a large majority of that stuff. And I remember one of the things I was talking about with Days Gone, and I don't mean to turn this into a Days Gone conversation. I'm going to start focusing on the medium. But I do remember that with Days Gone, I made a video specifically saying, like, titled, "What are these people thinking?" Because I was literally baffled. I'm like, I've played Days Gone for like 6 hours or 7 hours straight, and I haven't experienced a single bug. And I'm not kidding. Like, I was worried. I was legitimately worried that I was going to like experience some kind of game breaking bugs and it's gonna be like some cyberpunk level stuff going on. And I was like shocked. Like, I didn't experience anything, not one. So I was a little bit like, what is going on here? Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Magnum Visuals, for the very generous super chat donation, buddy. I really appreciate that. You're saying choosing review outlets is like choosing friends, where having common opinions is what bonds the two. I do 100% agree with that. I think that that's completely correct because I don't want to be like in an echo chamber. You know what I mean? Like, I don't just want to hear what I want to hear. That's why I try to be open to listening to other review outlets. But what I've learned over the years is that is true because when you realize that there's just so many different review outlets, there's so many different reviewers and so many different people with different opinions and different biases and different preferences, you immediately realize that, like, this is just how it's going to be. Look at Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is a game where there's people coming out here giving it a 10 out of 10. A 10 out of 10. And even though to me that seems like a joke, I can't sit there and say, oh, there's no way you enjoyed the game enough to give it a 10 out of 10. I can't determine that for someone else. That's for them to determine. I'm probably not going to take that review super seriously because based off of what I've seen with my own two eyes, I'm more inclined to be in agreement with the individual who's like, this is probably as of right now like a 6 or a 5 out of 10 based off of how many things are wrong with this game. And I've seen people try to say, oh, Days Gone was just as bad as Cyberpunk. No, that's not an opinion. Like that is objectively wrong. Okay. Days Gone had its issues, and especially pre day one patch. Please do not go there and try to say that Days Gone was anywhere near as bad as Cyberpunk, because as somebody who has played that game for well over like 200 hours, no. If you want to say that Days Gone had its issues, yeah, of course it did. It wasn't a perfect game. I'm not saying Days Gone was even a 10 out of 10 game. It wasn't. It wasn't a 10 out of 10 game, in my opinion. But it was far from a 5 or 6 out of 10 game, even with some of the glitches that I've seen people experience. So anyway, talking about the medium, and thank you so much again, man, for Magnum Visuals. I really appreciate that super chat, man. It goes a long way here on the channel. I appreciate all of the support you guys have been showing, truly. I just don't want to sound like a broken record all the time, constantly being like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I feel like that can get a little bit annoying. You're saying Days Gone is a solid 9 out of 10 for you. Yeah, dude. I mean, especially playing it on the PS5. I mean, I haven't played it on the PS5 yet, but I've seen footage and it's like, wow. This is like a game that really benefits a lot. And I'm really excited for Days Gone 2. I really hope that's a thing. Saying Days Gone is a 7.25. Yeah, I could see that. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I could see how somebody could walk away from Days Gone being like, 7 out of 10, 7.25. I get that. You know what I mean? Like, I can see that. But I can also see why some people are like, dude, it's like a 9.5 out of 10 for me. What I don't understand is how can you say it's like a 5 out of 10? You know, like that's just like that's a little low, you know. It's a higher quality game than that. But the medium, um, you know, Mr. Hamster said earlier, you know, that he thinks that the medium is getting like more hate than it normally otherwise would because it's an Xbox exclusive. And I do agree. But I think that's just the nature of playing the exclusive game, you know, playing the meta game here, where it's like, yeah, you know, when you're a big Xbox supporter, you're a big Xbox fan, you're interested in the Xbox exclusives, you're interested in, you know, what games are going to be exclusive to this platform and ecosystem that I'm a big fan of. And then the same can be said for PlayStation, Nintendo, and any others. And you know, I just think it's unfortunate. And I say this as somebody who used to be an Xbox fan, and I still am an Xbox owner. I'm going to be real right now, guys. I don't play my Xbox. I just don't. Like, ever since I transitioned over to the PlayStation ecosystem, I just don't feel the need to go and play anything on Xbox. Like, when they release a game, and I genuinely mean this, like, people don't believe me, but it's going to happen. When they release a game that I'm like, to me, this is a must play, and I must play this on my Xbox, and maybe even buy a Series X to do so, I will do it. The Medium is not that game. The Medium, to me, even though it is a horror game and it is a game that, like, normally I'd feel like it's a game I should be interested in. I was honestly, it was listening to Skill Up's review. Like, I listened to a lot of his reviews because I really like, you know, I appreciate his opinion more so than a lot of others. Um, when he kind of like made it clear that there's really not like that much gameplay, I was kind of like, all right, you know, like I was already kind of on the fence, but even though I do like the atmosphere and the tone of the game, visually, honestly, it's not striking at all. It's just not a visually striking game. Um, you know, people will say to me like, dude, if this was a PlayStation game, you'd be hyping it left, right. No, no, I wouldn't. Like look, I know it's easy to assume that if any Xbox game was on PlayStation exclusively, that I'd be hyping it to no end. Am I sitting here hyping Destruction All Stars to the moon and back? Am I sitting here hyping, you know, a game like Deathloop, which I think looks like a good game, but you know, like I'm just trying to point out, like, no, that's not the case. If the medium is apparently coming to PlayStation, I'm still probably not going to play it, and it's not because it's an Xbox game. Um, you're saying it's a bad Silent Hill. Well, look, I appreciate what the developers did. You know what I mean? And I'm happy to hear that it was apparently a success. It's just it doesn't speak to me. You know, it could have like the medium to me is a game that I feel like should be AAA. I feel like the medium is a game that it could be the new Silent Hill if it had that AAA level of development, that AAA budget, that AAA you know, polish, but it's very much small scale, and I feel like to me it's just like I'm the type of person where I am a fan of the bigger AAA games. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of smaller indie games, even like double A games that try like, you know, it took me forever to actually play Hellblade, and Hellblade made me realize like, oh, smaller games can be, you know, similar in quality level to AAA in some cases as well, and maybe the medium. I just feel like the medium doesn't fall into that category. Just to be brutally honest, based off of what I've seen, I could be wrong. Again, like I don't want to judge the game because I haven't played it, but it does remind me. And anybody who's a fan of the medium, forgive me for saying this, but I just have to be honest. The situation I find myself in with the medium is somewhat similar to Crackdown 3. However, there is a big difference before you freak out. Crackdown 3 was very clearly a bad game. Like, I didn't need to play it to know that that's a bad game. The medium is different in the sense that I don't know for sure if it's a bad game or a game that I would consider bad or just really not good at all, because I haven't played it. Like, there's still that chance there. But it does kind of remind me of the situation where it's like when I think about Xbox anymore, like, that's just not the stuff that's going to, like, that's not the game. Those are not the type of games that are going to bring me to your ecosystem. By the way, can you guys let me know, is the medium on Game Pass? I feel like it is, right? I feel like the medium is on Game Pass. I'm asking that because you're saying insights from ignorance aren't insights at all. Yeah, you're right. You are right about that. But I feel like, how far does that statement go? Like, if I watch gameplay and I listen to reviews and I listen to what people are telling me about the game and I listen to all these different opinions and I kind of form my own opinion based off of what I'm seeing myself, but I'm not actually interacting with the entire game yet. I feel like that's not an opinion completely made out of ignorance. I just feel like that opinion cannot be as valid as, say, somebody who did play uh, the game. You guys are saying yes, it is on Game Pass. I feel like that opinion, even though it is still a more ignorant opinion, it still holds some weight, just not as weight. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna listen to the opinion of somebody who didn't play a game and then have them tell me, oh, you shouldn't play this game. That's why I'm not saying you shouldn't play the medium. I'm just saying I'm not gonna play the medium. If you think it looks good, go play it. Go support it. I'm sure they would love your support. I just think that, you know, let me get to these super chats, by the way, real quick before they disappear. Chris B, you're saying maybe if the medium has some interesting dual sense enhancements. Yeah, potentially. I'll have to see when it comes to PlayStation. I think it will. Excuse me. I think it will highly depend on what I'm playing currently. Because, like, if the medium were to drop like 2 weeks from now, I'd probably play it, but I think it's dependent on that. Dylan Wood, you're saying, I heard the medium is a powerhouse because it maxes out the Series X to 900p and the RT, excuse me, I got something in my throat. Saying it maxes out the Series X to 900p and the RTX 3090 to 1080p. Game just sucks, just my opinion though. Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and that's what I mean, like, on a technical level. Yeah, it's an indie game. I don't expect it, dude. When I found out that at some point in the game, when it's split like two sections, Digital Foundry confirmed that, like, on the Series S, it can drop as low as, brace yourselves for this one, guys. It can drop as low as like 640p. I couldn't believe that. I'm like, holy, yeah, 650p when it runs the dual reality. Like, I get that it has to run these two things separately, but look, I get it. Like, gameplay is king. I'm not playing a game. I'm not playing a game on my PS5 that ever hits 650p. I'm never doing that. It could be a Sony exclusive. It could be like, that's whoa. That's like whoa, whoa, whoa. Granted, I don't think it would ever hit 650p on the PS5. It hits 650p on the Xbox Series S. And I was just like, alrighty then. But yeah, I mean, look, does that mean because in that one moment, because it drops at 650p, does that mean it's a bad game? No, it doesn't. I just feel like it's games like that and them dropping that low that really make the Series S flat out look like a terrible console. Just straight up. Like, that's not good, man. But more power to the developers. I do genuinely just feel like like Blooper Team, I feel like they could be a team that, if they could be bought up by, say, Microsoft or another publisher and really given that AAA funding, I think that they could do great things. The thing for me that killed my any chance I may have had of playing the game legitimately was Skill Up's review. Even though his review was overall very positive, it was really when he kind of made everybody aware that he's like, look, if you're going into this game like where you're expecting a lot of gameplay, like a significant amount, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed, And that's where, in my opinion, this is why I listen to certain people that, Skill Up has not steered me wrong before. He's a very good reviewer. He's very good at what he does. I highly respect him. And when he said that, he didn't tell me not to play the game. He's just saying there might not be as much gameplay here, as you might have been thinking. And to me, that's like, okay, like, I don't know that that's going to be something I want to go back to my Xbox, because I'm going to be honest, guys. The Xbox ecosystem is not one that I really care about too much anymore. I care about the trophy metagame now. I used to care about achievements. I don't care anymore because I'm not doing both. You know, I'm not trying to get achievements and then get trophies. I'm not doing that. That's too much for me. It's one or the other. I got other stuff going on in my life. I don't have the uh, capacity to deal with all of that. So for me, I'm gonna pick one or the other, and I've chosen PlayStation at this point. And so, in order for me to be enticed to go to the Xbox ecosystem, because it's like, yeah, well, why not just go to Game Pass and play the medium there? Yeah, I could do that, but I, it's not a matter of money. You know what I mean? It's not a matter of like how cheap is it. It's not. It's never been about that for me. It never has. It's a matter of, does this game look good? Like, Returnal. Yeah, see, like you're saying, Returnal. If you don't like roguelikes, you probably won't like Returnal. I don't think I've ever really played a roguelike, and so I'm a little bit nervous that maybe I'll end up not liking Returnal, because I've never played a roguelike. But what I've seen of it looks intense and action packed, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I just need to know if the story is going to be any good. I need to know how addicting that gameplay loop is going to be. I, you're saying just try it out. It's literally free. Dude, that requires me hooking my Xbox back up, man. That requires me, like, going back to the Xbox controller. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Like, to me, like, that's how far removed from Xbox I am now, man. Like, I have not turned on my Xbox. And somebody said to me, they left a comment. They were like, MBG, you really should consider investing in an Xbox Series X if not just for the sake of your channel, because having that there and being able to give the opinion of hey, I have a Series X and I played games on it. And I fully intend to get a Series X at some point, and yes, it will probably be very beneficial to my channel. But I have to be honest and say, like, I'm not the type of person where, like, oh, hey guys, Series X unboxing because it's gonna help my channel. I'm not, no, like, I'm not gonna buy a Series X in the hope that it'll get me more views on my channel or I'll have more to talk about. I'm gonna buy it because I actually want to buy it. Hey, if Microsoft wanted to send me one, which they never would, but I would take it. I'm not gonna say no to it. But that's the thing right now. It will benefit my channel, but it will only benefit my channel if there's genuine interest. You see what I'm saying? Because right now, it could benefit my channel if I was able to get my hands on one, because I could be like, hey guys, here's my Xbox Series X review. Press X and A podcast. Yeah, I guess it kind of is, right? Here's my Series X review. I'm not liking it because I have nothing to play on it and I'm not playing it. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, I don't want to buy a console to out of that. Like, I mean, that would probably get views. People would probably find that entertaining because they'd be like, oh, how funny. But no, like, I want to, when I see a game that actually entices me, and it's gonna, and let me tell you right now, Game Pass is not what's going to entice me. I can't make this promise right now, but when I see a game developed by a Microsoft studio that I'm like, that's the game, I'm buying a Series X for, I'm most likely going to buy their game physically if I can. I don't care about Game Pass and the deal, because that's not the lens I'm looking through. I understand why a lot of people do look at it through that lens. That's why I understand the medium is being exposed to a ton of people where they don't want to. How much is the medium being sold for? Like 30 or 40 bucks? Maybe you can let me know. Surely it can't be a $70 game, right? Right? And if it is, if it's a $70 game or a $60 game, saying it's 44, okay, that's not too bad. That kind of makes sense. If you have gold, okay. I mean, I understand that to a lot of people who don't want to spend a lot of money on games, you know, you're saying MBG, we don't play resolutions, we play games. For sure, for sure. But I think we're a little bit past the days of 650p resolution. Can we at least agree on that? um, Hellblade, you're saying Hellblade 2 is going to be heat? Yes, dude, 100%. Hellblade is probably going to be the game that makes me go out there and buy a Series X. depending on when it releases, of course. Because I'm not buying a Series X for Halo. I'm not into Halo like that. I probably won't play Halo, to be brutally honest. Primal Plasma, you're saying just because you see what looks like a green light on the top of the Series X doesn't mean that it is on, LOL. I hear you, man. I hear you. Um, so, for me, I'm about supporting developers. Destruction All Stars, and I'm mentioning this game again because I do feel a little, I don't want to say I feel guilty because it's not like that. Like, I am a human being, right? I'm not trying to spend all of my money on games. I can't, right? Nobody can. I'm always looking to see if I can get a little bit of a better deal, a little bit of a better value. And so when I think about Destruction All Stars, I do think like, well, if this game's free on PS Plus, well, I'm paying what, $60 for PS Plus a year? And let's say I love the game. I'm like, wow, this game's amazing. Am I really going to, I mean, I'm assuming Destruction All Stars for some reason. I could be wrong. I'm assuming it's going to be $70, which would be insane to me. Am I really going to turn around and be like, you know what? I really like this game. And even though you guys gave it to me for free on PS Plus, I'm going to pay you $70 for it because that's how much I like it. I'm not going to do that. Okay? Like, I'm not going to do that. It's not going to happen, But I feel like the idea is I want Microsoft to show me a game where Game Pass isn't at the center of it. You know what I mean? I want Microsoft to show me a game where it's like, I want to buy that game. Like, I want to buy that game and play it because that's how good it looks. Maybe I will decide I'll play it on Game Pass instead and save myself some money. But that's the point I'm trying to get at. Like, Destruction All Stars, the reason why that game is free on Game Pass is because no one's looking at that game being like, I want to buy that game for $70. Like, no one's doing that. I was going to potentially review it. I was going to buy all the launch games, and I was actually kind of relieved, and I was like, oh, okay, it's going in the PlayStation Plus now, so that's reassuring. But a game I will turn around and say I'll pay $70 for it, Returnal, because the quality looks like it's there. The depth is the only unknown, and if Sony gave me the opportunity to play Returnal without having to pay $70, I probably would. I probably would pay $10 to try out Returnal. But if I really enjoyed it, I probably would be like, you know what? All right, I want to buy this game and I want to own it because that's how much I like it. That's how good this is. This is a quality game right here. I probably would do that, But I'm going to take a chance and I'm going to buy Returnal. I think it looks good. I can't say I would take that $70 chance with a game like Destruction All Stars. And I'm not, I just feel like the medium is not the game. I know you say I'm talking in circles. I know I tend to do that sometimes. The point I'm trying to make here, guys, is the medium is not a game that makes me feel like I want to run and turn my Xbox on and hook it up and use the Xbox controller and probably, subscribe to Game Pass to try out. It's just not. It's just not. So I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. If the medium was getting rave review scores, I was like, oh, GameSpot 9 out of 10, but then I see that it's mixed reviews across the board. Maybe I'd feel a little bit different. If the medium was sitting at a 90 on Metacritic or a 92, I'd probably be like, all right, I guess I have to play this because it's that good. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it is what it is. You're yeah, I see what you guys are saying. So, I guess just to wrap up this topic about the medium, if it's a game that you are interested in, go support it, go buy it. You can access it through Game Pass. I have not talked about the acquisitions yet. That's actually the next topic. And it's a game that to me, even though I'm a big fan of horror games and I kind of like the atmosphere of the game, at this point I feel more comfortable just waiting until it comes to PlayStation because I play in the PlayStation ecosystem. That's where I enjoy my games. And it seems likely, as I said, based off of the leaked controller packaging or the mistake, which is just so funny to me. They're sending out limited edition medium themed controllers where it has the PlayStation symbols on the freaking box it's coming in. Like, gee, I wonder if this game's coming to PlayStation. But yeah, if it comes to PlayStation, maybe I'll play it. The only, I just mentioned that tweet I put out in regards to Days Gone because I just wanted to clarify that, look, it's nothing against the medium. I don't have a problem with the medium, and I don't. It doesn't look like the type of game where it's like a Crackdown 3 situation where I have to be like, really, really, like this is a AAA game that you guys hyped up for like years, constantly delayed it, and then released it, and it was just a colossal. We can't do that anymore thanks to Game Pass. You understand? So like it doesn't matter the quality level of Microsoft's games don't really matter too much anymore, at least not as much as they used to, because if they release a game that's just really low quality, like Crackdown 3 quality, doesn't matter because now everybody can hide behind it. It's only $10 on Game Pass. See what I'm saying? So I'm looking forward to Hellblade 2. I want to see more of that game. That's kind of what I'm wondering. Like Microsoft, like when are you going to start showing off the bigger games, man? Like the games that are really going to get me excited. I want to see Fable. I want to see Forza Horizon 5. I want to see some of the games that Bethesda is going to be putting out. I just want to see some new stuff. That's all. Because I do, believe it or not, this may sound crazy to some people. I do want a reason to eventually go back to the Xbox ecosystem. I just don't, I'm not, I don't ever think I'm going to stay there that long. But I'll stay there long enough to play some good games if they put them out. Salvazard06, you're saying off topic, but I hope Destruction All Stars is successful. Maybe then Sony will be willing to partner with Lucid and hand them an IP like Twisted Metal or MotorStorm. Those franchises need to come back. That's actually a really good point. That's a really interesting thing that I didn't even think of. I have seen multiple people liken Destruction All Stars to Twisted Metal in some cases. And you're totally right, where like Destruction All Stars is a new IP. I have to admit, before we move on to the next topic, we're going to talk about some major acquisition rumors. I have to admit, the style of Destruction All Stars makes me cringe. It makes me cringe. I feel like it's a Fortnite wannabe. It's over the top and like, oh, like look at these silly characters, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna play the game and try to ignore that aspect because it makes me cringe pretty hard. Um, and that's all. Like, and that's just how I feel about like the style of the game. But the gameplay looks like it could be fun, and like that's what matters to me. Gameplay is king, so I think that's a very interesting point. If it does succeed and it gets like decent review scores and there's a lot of engagement from PlayStation Plus, then maybe they can be like, all right, guys, here's the Twisted Metal IP. Let's see what you can do with it. Or MotorStorm. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. All right, but we're going to move on to one of the final topics here. So, guys, hit that like button. We're almost at 500 likes. Really appreciate the support you guys have been showing during the course of this podcast. Let me see here real quick. Yeah, so hit that like button. Let's get to 500 likes, see if we can get past that. Now we're going to talk about some major acquisition rumors that, I'm not going to lie, they concern me. They concern me deeply. And I understand that this is a situation. Why is there like coffee lines on here? I understand that there's like, a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to be like, oh, we have a fanboy, he's gonna cry, and like I know it's easy to get into the fanboy stuff here, but this is, Microsoft making a Bethesda level acquisition. This is beyond the fanboy stuff. Okay, we're looking at the gaming industry as a whole, just kind of transforming and consolidating. It seems like. So yeah, let's go over this new rumor. I want to read it to you guys so you have the full context. Brian, you're saying I won't lie. The gameplay shown in the state of play genuinely looks decent. It does. It does. Like it looks a little bit gimmicky, but it does kind of look to me like they could pull it off. Like the gameplay could be really fun. But yeah, so we have this. I came across this article from Game Rant, and I was thinking about making a dedicated video on it, but I figured we could talk about it here until we start to hear more about it. Now, you guys may recall that recently we did have a discussion in one of my more recent videos about the individual named Brad Sams. He is somebody who covers Microsoft and Xbox in the same way that we cover PlayStation here. And he said that there are major acquisitions that are going on, like talks of major acquisitions. Like he said he knew of three big ones that are happening behind the scenes between Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. He did say that Sony is part of that conversation, but not as much. And I think that that makes sense because Sony's Jim Ryan kind of made it clear that they're more about organic growth. But I do think Sony needs to be worried about this. Not in the way you might think. I think honestly, PlayStation fans have to be more worried than Sony does because Sony's like, okay, we may lose these games if they go to Microsoft's ecosystem, Google's, or God forbid, Google's or Amazon's ecosystem. But Sony will always be like, they have their own IP. Sony is a powerhouse, an absolute, like, Sony doesn't need to make these massive acquisitions to impress people and deliver good games. They don't need to do that. However, for people who are used to PlayStation fans who are used to having access to these games already in the PlayStation ecosystem, to eventually see them potentially taken away, that's where it gets a little bit concerning. Anyway, so it says here this current rumor does have some credibility, as industry insider, excuse me, Xbox Ragna backed it up. Xbox Ragna claimed Microsoft was about to purchase a very big gaming studio 3 weeks before Microsoft announced its Bethesda acquisition deal. When this new rumor surfaced from the gaming forum, I don't know why I said beginning, from the gaming forum Xbox era, Ragna agreed that the individual sharing it, was valid. He claims he doesn't know who the individual is, but he's been hearing the same thing for months and thinks that Microsoft will announce the purchase around the end of this year or sometime next year. So if we do hear about this, it's going to be quite some time. And so there's this tweet from LH where it shows this kind of captured in the form where it says, according to an insider, Microsoft will be acquiring studios on the same sort of caliber as Bethesda this year. Sounds like a few people might be upset this year. And then Xbox Ragnar, I think is what he's called on Twitter. He said, I don't know who this guy is, but I've been hearing the same thing for months, that Microsoft wants to acquire another publisher, a big publisher. Negotiations with Bethesda lasted 3 years, as I've been pointing out. I believe the announcement will be at the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022. And so the reason why I mentioned Brad Sams is because not only did he kind of hint at this already, but he also, I think, quote tweeted this and put like a kind of snarky, sly, smiley face, basically making it seem like, yeah, this is going to happen. And so it immediately makes you wonder, because if there's one thing that we can establish right off the bat is Xbox has the money. Microsoft has the money. Microsoft has allowed Xbox at this point, like the parent company of Microsoft, go buy whatever you want. Here's the checkbook, spend as many billions as you want. Microsoft, I believe, made enough money in pure profit recently to buy Bethesda twice. Yeah. So it's crazy. Like they've banked like $15 billion or something like that. Just from their last fiscal quarter alone, just their last quarter. That is mind blowing. And so let me ask you guys, what is this next acquisition? I won't lie to you. I didn't really care too much about Bethesda. Just truthfully speaking, like Bethesda's games have never really spoken to me. Bethesda's games are not games that I've ever really been interested in or got excited about. That's just the truth. But at this point, if Microsoft does make another major gaming publisher acquisition on the same level as Bethesda, the chances of them acquiring a publisher that I really do care about, a publisher that produces games that I actually do care about. Yeah, like WB Games or Ubisoft or Square Enix or Capcom. I don't think it's going to be EA or Take Two Interactive. Those, I mean, could Microsoft afford it? Yeah. Would it be a smart acquisition? Probably not. I mean, look, those companies, they're worth way too much. I just don't think that. I've seen people say Sega. Sega's one that I wouldn't care about, honestly. Just being completely honest. And so this is why I'm saying, like, I don't know if Sony would actually be worried. I think Sony would be affected. And again, we have to kind of ask ourselves, are these games, Bethesda's games, are they going to remain multi-platform? Are they going to be locked to the Xbox ecosystem? You're saying Activision. You're saying it's one of these four companies, Sega, Ubisoft, Capcom, or Square Enix. Uh, you're saying you will care, MVG, if you played Persona 5. Yeah, you might be. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, Ubisoft isn't cheap either, for sure. And I just think that this is concerning, man. Like, I really do, because I don't like this. Like, I don't like this idea that, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, these massive powerhouse companies, like, could Sony afford a big level acquisition like that? I think it depends on who it is, but I don't think Sony would ever do that because it's very risky. Like, it's a million times more risky for Sony to make an acquisition of that level than it is for Microsoft, because Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they have money to burn, man. They don't want to burn it, but boy, do they have it to burn. Sony, not so much. Sony, not so much. Sony has, I think, like what, $40 billion in cash on hand in total, roughly something like that. But do you think that they want to spend that money? Like, do you know how serious it is, how risky it is if they're like, we're going to spend $10 billion? Like, yeah, that's risking your company, basically, in the long run. Like, if you're going to spend that kind of money, a company like Sony, yeah, you're exactly like $10 billion for Microsoft is literally nothing. It's literally nothing to them. You're saying $50 billion for Sony. Yeah, and this is where just I do get genuinely concerned at, what the future looks like for these gaming, not companies, but the IP that these companies own. Would I love to see Sony acquire one of these big studios? Of course. And if Sony ever did, you already know all that is exclusive to PlayStation now. But Sony, I don't think, is too involved in that. Sony really is more about like doubling down on their strength. And Sony's strength is not the amount of money they can spend. Sony's strength is talent, is cultivating talent organically, buying smaller studios, medium-sized studios, and then really kind of letting them flourish and grow and become better and better. That's Sony's greatest strength. Frankly, I feel like that's Microsoft's greatest weakness right now. And I think that's part of the reason why Microsoft is just straight up like, we're going to buy everybody. Like, if we buy enough people, we'll have a winner, Like, I do think that. But also, Microsoft is buying up stuff like this because they're all about Game Pass. Game Pass, whether anybody wants to accept it or not, quality does not take the priority for Game Pass. It just doesn't. It's a service. It's about subscribers, and it's about enticing people in any possible way. Quality is a part of that. It's not the priority. Okay, volume, quantity is what matters most to Game Pass, which is why Microsoft is about having as many studios under their belt that they can. If these studios can produce quality, then that's just a double win for them. Sony isn't like that. Sony is still very much like, no, it's more about quality. Although Sony does have quantity, the quality takes the priority. That's why I was very confident when I was asked earlier, do you think Sony would rush out God of War Ragnarok, whether it was finished or not, just to sell PS5s? No, absolutely not. They would not do that. If they had a Game Pass, if they had a PlayStation Game Pass they could put it into, then they could justify it and say, well, hey, if God of War is buggy as all hell, Ragnarok is buggy as all hell, and it definitely needed more time, no big deal, Here it is for $10. See what I'm saying? That's why I'm glad Game Pass doesn't exist on PlayStation, honestly. Because if you think Sony wouldn't do that, if you think Microsoft wouldn't do that, Microsoft was close to doing that with Halo Infinite, but the backlash was so severe. They're like, you know what? Yeah, we can't do that. But yeah, when it, I do believe this, guys. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. I do believe these inside rumors because we're starting to see that situation rise where it's like there's a lot of smoke starting to be conjured up here. We're starting to see a lot of smoke, and where there's smoke, there's most likely some type of fire. Something's going on. And we need to pay attention to the fact that when Phil Spencer and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, when they were being interviewed and asked about this Bethesda acquisition when it happened, one of the things that they were asked is, is this is this something that we can continue to expect, or are you kind of taking a break from the acquisitions? And they said, no, you can expect. We will continue to look for acquisitions, both big and small. And what that tells you all you need to know. So it does make me nervous, honestly. Like, as somebody who's invested in the PlayStation ecosystem, that's where I like to play. I don't like this idea that later this year, what if it is Capcom? What if it is Capcom? What if all of Capcom's IP are suddenly owned by Microsoft and now they're just going to be on the Microsoft platform? Like, I would hate that. I would absolutely hate that, man. What if it's Square Enix? What if it is Sega? What if it's Ubisoft? Like, I would literally be like, this is really what's going to happen? Like, this is what's going to happen. This is how Microsoft wins, by strong-arming everybody? That sucks, dude. And, I understand, like, Xbox fans, people who do prefer the Xbox ecosystem, they're going to be jumping for joy. They're going to be like, look, like, Xbox is king. Everybody has to come to Xbox. And it's like, I guess you're right. Is that going to, I'll tell you what, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, you can spend your billions. You can buy anything you want. You can buy all these IP, all these publishers. But if there's one thing that I hope you can never buy, and I would be interested, guys, maybe you can tell me this in the chat when it comes to the PlayStation division being up for sale or Sony being up for sale. Could Sony or the PlayStation brand be bought out by Google, Amazon, or Microsoft? I don't know if they can. I'm unsure about that. I know that Sony's a Japanese company, but what I will say is that assuming that they won't be bought out, assuming that they won't sell and they can't be bought out, you're saying yes, they could. Yeah, how would that work? Because this is like getting into territory where I'm like, how does this work? Apple as well is another company that is getting involved too. You're saying no, Google it. They are protected as a core company. If the price is right, anything can happen. Seems very unlikely. Monopoly. It's a monopoly. Yeah, that's what, dude, like, I hate this. I hate this idea that, like, Microsoft is so rich that they can just buy their way. They can buy everything up. And Google, Apple, and Amazon are the same way. They can just buy their way in. And I'm like, that sucks, dude. Like, that just sucks. Like, hostile takeover, I don't know. Oh my God, don't even start. I don't even want to talk about Tencent. That is some scary stuff right there, man. This is why I'm concerned, man. Like, I'm concerned about the future of the gaming industry, considering this is the path we're going down, where we're just gonna buy, and it's just that who has the most money, that's who wins. Like, that sucks. That is the worst. What about talent? What about quality? What about any of that? Does any of that even matter? And they'll of course they'll lie. Oh yeah, that matters. That's at the center of what we do. And yeah, okay. I bet it is. Right? I bet that's what at the center of what we did. This is why I know Sony is a corporation. I know PlayStation and the executives that are there, they have a job to do. It is a business. I understand that. It's about money. It's about profit. However, I always have just gotten this feeling with Sony, especially in the past couple of years, where the people that are there seem to actually have some type of respect for this medium. They have a respect for gaming as an art form. They have a respect for the industry. And I just feel like, yeah, and it is about understanding your consumer as well. I feel like Sony genuinely does mostly respect the consumer, like their core audience. Like they're in touch mostly with what we want, and they're willing to listen. And look at what Microsoft guys. I don't mean to bring this up again, but all these all these people, dude. True Witty, you're saying Sony can't be bought like that. They own government banks. Hmm. I'd have to, yeah. I mean, it seems like it's a little bit of a messy situation or confusing. I'll have to look into it. But I'm going to end this topic by saying this. I've listened to Xbox executives. I've listened to Xbox fans. I've listened to many of them tell me how great Microsoft is. They're so pro consumer. Microsoft's frankly BS marketing of the gamers at the center of what we do. Oh, yes, the gamers at the center of what you do, Microsoft. Okay, sure. Maybe if you need to know how much Microsoft cares, how much Xbox actually cares about the consumer, and how much at the center of of uh of gravity the consumer, the gamer really is. Just look at what they tried to pull with Xbox Live. I get it. They reversed it, but do you know why they reversed it? Because they weren't going to get away with it. That's why they reversed it. Not because they care about you, not because they care about your wallet. Okay? That's not why. They reversed it because they knew immediately, uh-oh, we can't get away with it. And I'm not saying that Sony isn't the same way, but I do think that there are degrees here, okay? Do I think Sony and Nintendo would have immediately upped their pricing for their online services and subscriptions if Microsoft stuck to that? Of course. Of course. But even then, Sony could still be like, we're going to charge $100 a year, and that's still cheaper. And who would have been the cause of that? Who would have been the reason? Microsoft. So if you ever want to sit back and talk about how pro consumer and how for the gamer and for the player that Microsoft is, just don't forget that even in 2021, okay, when you would think that they're way past it, they're way past those anti-consumer days. No, they're not. They want your subscription. That's all they want. And that's why I don't believe in them as a gaming company. That's why I don't believe in their games. And I don't believe that they're going to produce the type of games that speak to me. To whereas when I look at Sony, when I see, you can hate The Last of Us 2 as much as you want. But boy, do I got to give Sony credit for having some gumption to look at that game and what Neil Druckmann was writing and the direction that story was going in with those beloved characters and say, all right, go for it. Like I gotta give them that credit, man, where it's like, you think Microsoft would have ever allowed something like that to happen? Hell no, dude. Hell no. And that's important because that's art, man. Like, I don't care if you think The Last of Us Part 2 is the worst piece of SJW trash you've ever played, or if you think it's the holy grail of games. I don't care. What I care about is the fact that they were able to do what they wanted, how they wanted. And did it upset me? Of course it did. But I have respect for that. I have respect for let the artist preserve the art form, preserve the idea of what do you want to do in this medium? You know? That's more important than my feelings, is what I'm trying to say. Terabyte Gaming Media. After what Microsoft pulled off with the Halo Master Chief Collection, I will never trust Microsoft again. This is why I'm saying, dude. This is why I'm saying, like, I just can't do it. Like, I can't do it I can't be that way with Microsoft, man. I feel like they've just burned too many bridges. Does it mean I'll never play an Xbox game again? Absolutely not. I did say earlier in this podcast how I want them to produce good games, but I'm just tired of the BS, man. I'm tired of the bull. I'm tired of hearing how pro consumer, how great they are. Like, just please take it and go away. Please, just leave me alone. All right, I don't want to hear it. You want it to you want it to double the price of Xbox Live, and that's it. And you got caught. You know, that we called your bluff on that because we didn't call your bluff because it wasn't a bluff. That's the wrong word verbiage there. No, we made sure that you weren't going to get away with that. You're saying Heisenberg, you're saying there's a reason Sony dominated the 2020 gaming charts. Microsoft was nowhere to be seen. Quality matters, and Microsoft doesn't have it. Dude, that's just the honest truth, man. This is why I just don't. This is why I literally shiver. Like I shiver at the idea of. So wait a second, you're telling me Microsoft is going to make another Bethesda level acquisition in 2021, and that's just what they're going to do. They're just going to take it all away because these Xbox fans are like, this is how Xbox wins. You know, you're gonna have to get an Xbox, and they can celebrate and they can party. I'm like, guys, okay. I mean, if you're an Xbox fan, you're loving it, right? But if you are somebody like me who is like, what? I don't know, man. I've always said that one of the things I've loved about Sony as a company is the fact that they've always been on the edge. Sony is not a Microsoft. Sony is not an Apple. Sony is not an Amazon or Google. They're far, far, far from it. And I like it that way. Do you know why? Because Sony doesn't have the ability to just go buy it. They don't have the ability. No, they don't. That's not how you know what Sony does? They create it from the ground up. They find people where it's not just about the money. It's about the art and it's about creativity. There is a business side to it. There always is. There has to be. But that's what they do. And you know what? After seeing the type of crap that Bethesda tried to pull with Fallout 76, good riddance. Honestly, I know I'm being a little bit more candid now, but good riddance. Have fun. You fit perfectly over there at Microsoft. There's a reason why I've never been interested in most of Bethesda's games. Some of them, yeah. You know, I'm not saying they're all bad, but Leo Jimmy, you're saying MBG, have you seen that new game the day before? You know who made it? If so, what do you think? I don't know who made it. I did see a little bit of it, and they did that thing with the gameplay demo where they had the scripted voice chat, which is like, oh, this is cringy as hell. But it looked like The Division mixed with World War Z. It looked pretty good. It looked pretty good. I don't know who made it though. Roshi Dom, if I'm saying your name correctly, V2, Sony charging 70 ain't exactly pro consumer either. You're right. And I'm not trying to say it is. That's what I'm trying to say is that if you want to charge me $70, it better be worth it. It better be worth it. And that's the point. Is Sony, the people who run PlayStation mostly, this could be proven wrong in the coming years, but I don't think it will be. They understand that. Like they know they're not going to get away with it. That's what I'm trying to say. Here's the thing. What if Microsoft doubled the price of Xbox Live, but then they promised something with it? They offered something more. How different would that situation have went down? That's the problem. Microsoft didn't offer anything. They just said, we're doubling the price because we want to. Thanks. Sony, while they may be increasing their games to $70, they understand, well, and I said this last week, I'll say it again. If you're going to charge $70 for these games, they better be damn good. Like, the quality better be there. And the value better be there. Because if it's not, we're going to destroy this game. And people think I'm a PlayStation fanboy to the point where if I pay $70 for a game and I feel like this was not worth $70, they think I'm just going to come and be like, no, guys, this was totally worth $70. Great game. Everybody go buy it. No. That's not what's going to happen. If I buy Returnal and I complete it and I'm like, guys, Sony really messed up big time. Do not pay $70 for this game. Wait for it to go on sale. I will let you know. Okay? Like, that's... Uh, the best was seeing the people who were actually trying to defend the Xbox Live price hike before they reversed it, where they're like trying to justify, well, it's okay that they want to double their price, and here's why. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you actually doing, man? Like, can we like take a step back here? I'm starting to go off now because it's just like Maxwell, you're saying read my comments. They are not super chatted. It's hard to, man. Like people, if I could read every comment, I would, but it's hard to. Um, Maxwell, I can't find your comments, man. I'm sorry, dude. It's too difficult to keep up with it all. But I don't know. I guess I'm just going on this little tangent here and this rant because I just I'm just tired of this notion that yeah, Microsoft is so great. Like no, they're not. They're just not. You can hate Sony's games, you can call them one and done walking movie simulators, that's fine. Okay? But at least and I'm not going to speak for Sony and their executives, but at least the creators at Sony are seemingly free to do what they want mostly. And they're allowed to try to preserve the art form of making games. Maybe Microsoft is able, maybe they're, I mean, we've heard, oh, Microsoft is giving them creative freedom so they can make Bleeding Edge and Grounded. And I'm like, that's great. That's great. But people want more than that. What are you doing outside of that? Well, we bought Bethesda and we have all these AAA games. The point is, they have a lot to prove still. And I've been done. I'm not waiting anymore. When it happens, it happens, if it ever happens. But I'm just tired, man, of all these guys trying to really hype up Xbox to the point where it's like, there's nothing to hype. There's nothing to hype. You want to hype Game Pass? Go right ahead. But have fun hyping all of have fun continuously justifying the low quality, and continuously justifying. People are like, oh, well, you make it sound like Sony never puts out low quality games. No, they do sometimes. Sony's going to have misses for sure, but we're going to hold them accountable for that. That's why you got to let the market speak. And I get that the market is speaking. You're saying, well, Game Pass is great. Well, you know what? Sure, you can speak and you can enjoy that value, but I'm concerned. I'm concerned at the future quality of games. I'm concerned at this idea that Microsoft can just buy Bethesda and take away all their games, put them in the Game Pass, and they're not coming to PlayStation if they want to. And I'm concerned that they can do that 3 times over with any other company. I'm concerned that Google, Amazon, and Apple and Tencent are just walking in being like, well, we're going to be a big juggernaut in gaming. I'm like, how about you just go away? Please leave. Like, you suck. You suck. And I highly doubt you'll ever not suck. It just sucks, man. It does. I'm sorry. It gets me upset. And people could say, oh, you're just crying. And it's like, you know what? Eventually, mark my words, you're going to be crying with me. You gotta preserve the greatness, man. Preserve the greatness. There's something here that's worth trying to preserve. And I just feel like we're slowly, and this is why I hate Microsoft's marketing, because they're like trying to condition people. And it's working on some people where it's just like, value, good deals. It's like, can we just talk about great games? Like, can we talk about like the quality of games? Like, did you guys hear, the Bleeding Edge? You guys remember that game? Bleeding Edge, a game that, it could have been something, but it's like, guys, is this really what your main focus should be right now? Like, no, it shouldn't be. You should be working on Hellblade 2. Like, could you imagine if like Naughty Dog came out and put out a game like Bleeding Edge and they're just like, hey, like, check out this game. Like, guys, you're like some of the most talented developers in the world. Why are you doing that? I mean, hey, if that's what they want to do, but there's a reason they don't want to do that, because they know like they can do better than that. A lot better than that. So we heard that Bleeding Edge is being taken. It's not being supported anymore because literally no one's playing it because it's not a great, like, it's just, there's a reason why, you know, that game probably would have never been made if Microsoft didn't let them make it. And I get it, like, but didn't you say you should let developers? Yeah, you should, but come on, like, Ninja Theory is super talented, man. Like, I would like that team that's working on Bleeding, that was working on Bleeding Edge, go work on Hellblade 2. Let's get more people working on that because I'm pretty sure you guys can do something really special with Hellblade 2. And they probably are doing that now that they're not supporting the game anymore. You're saying Ninja Theory wanted to make Bleeding Edge. I get that. I get that. And I'm all about, like, I don't fault them for that. It's just like, come on, like, you guys, and this is where you have to question a studio, like the people who are leading a studio, like, if we were having a meeting and it's like, we want to make Bleeding Edge, I'd be like, I love that. Like, I love that you want to do that, but do you really, like, you don't think maybe that you can reach beyond that? That you could do something more than that? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's all. That's all it is. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, the reality is, and I'm gonna have to end the podcast on this note. At the end of the day, it's all about business. You know, it's all about business. I feel like PlayStation's in a good position where they have created this atmosphere, this creative environment where they're going to put out games and they're going to mostly let the developers do what they want to do. And they're going to try to focus on quality. They're going to try to focus on storytelling. They're going to focus on good gameplay, obviously great gameplay. And they're going to focus on trying to continue to branch out and expand. And I just want to see that, I love to see the market speak. I love to see that PlayStation fans, gamers, they're going out there and they're putting their money where their mouths are, and they're buying these games. These games are selling like crazy. It's because that's what gamers are gravitating towards. And I want to continue to see that. I don't mind a couple Bleeding Edges, a couple Destruction All-Stars here and there, a couple Groundeds, a couple AA medium games like the medium. Like, I don't mind that at all. I do mind that when that starts to seem like that's becoming the priority, because to me, that's not exciting. And I think that gaming can be much more than that when it wants to be, and it should be. I'm not saying every studio needs to make the next Last of Us Part 2 or God of War. I'm also not saying every studio needs to make the next Bleeding Edge or Destruction All-Stars. I just think that, Microsoft, frankly, has not, and still is not doing a good job in actually pushing the gaming medium forward. I think they're pushing the service medium forward more so than anything else. And while I know that there are Xbox fans who constantly want to celebrate the idea of major acquisitions, what have we seen? I'm being dead serious. Since 2018, when Phil Spencer went on stage and said, we acquired this, and that, what have we seen? Can somebody tell me? I don't know what we've seen. So I have to wonder, are we ever going to see it? Salvazard06, you're saying the Bethesda acquisition just means Sony Studios need to diversify in other genres of gaming. Imagine an open world action RPG and Naughty Dog quality. That's exciting to think about. I do agree. And that's why, like, I want to see Sony. I'm so happy to see Sony is growing. They are growing internally. They're taking their big talented teams and they're growing them organically. They're not like, well, we have Naughty Dog, so let's just go buy them over there. They're not doing that. Like, we have Naughty Dog, we have Guerrilla Games, we have Sony Santa Monica. Let's start searching for more talent and bring that talent in, and let's grow these teams so large that we can separate them and we can start to diversify in that way, Microsoft is growing significantly faster because they're buying their way into growth. I'm sorry, but like, Bethesda is, like, Microsoft may own Bethesda, but that's not, or that's the furthest thing from organic. Bethesda is Bethesda. Microsoft is trying to pay their way in. You know, and I don't blame them. When you have that much money, you ever see those movies, guys? Come on, like you've seen it before. I mean, what is it like Rocky with you know, he's going out there, you know, he's facing Drago, you know, and he has like the most expensive cutting edge tech and all these things, and it's like, you know, to keep him at his peak. And Rocky's like, I'm gonna go out in the wilderness and the snow, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna get back to the roots, man, you know, and produce something great that way. And you know, I feel like that's just kind of what we see. Where like Microsoft's all like, you know, micro Microsoft's just all like, hey, you know, we're just gonna buy, and yeah. So I don't know, man. Deep cuts, yeah. I don't know. I don't mean to come off like I'm hating on Xbox. I just when I like, yeah, you know, there's Xbox guys. Like I look at this tweet that this guy put out, and he says, you know, according to an insider, Microsoft may be acquiring studios on the same scale as Bethesda this year. Sounds like a few people might be upset this year. Like, you're goddamn right, I'm gonna be upset. I don't want to hear that shit. Excuse my French, but I don't want to. I don't. You're yes, and you can. You know, Xbox. They can make fun of me and stuff, but I'm like, you guys don't know what you wish. Be careful what you wish for. Did my stream freeze? I feel like my stream froze. Wow. Okay. Um, everything froze. Hold on. I think my computer froze. Chat is okay. I got the chat up on my phone. What the hell? They're getting to me, man. They're getting to me. They hear me ranting. I'm good. Okay. That my computer froze like straight up. I don't know what's happening right now. Give me. Okay. All right. It just there we go. That was wow. I didn't even do anything. I just literally clicked over to the other tab. I think I need a new PC. All right. That was really weird. Anyway, that's all I'm trying to say. Like I feel like you got to be careful what you wish for, and the most important thing is this: MBG is being hacked by the Xbots. Look, I'm gonna end it on this note. Okay, I am not against Xbox fans. I'm not. Like I feel like enjoy what you enjoy, man. You know, buy what you want to buy. Who am I to tell anybody what they should or should not enjoy? What I will say is you need to make sure though, and this just goes for everybody, but I think especially with Microsoft, if there's one thing I've learned about Microsoft and Phil Spencer and their marketing team over the past year and a half or 2 years, oh boy, do they like to blow a lot of smoke. And they're all smoke and mirrors, man. Do not fall for it. Hold them accountable. And that's what I gotta admit, I was really happy to see that the Xbox fan base, they came together collectively alongside every other gamer when Microsoft tried to double the price, and they were like, no, no, like that, we're not gonna let that happen. And I'm glad, and you got to keep that energy, man, with these acquisitions, with the quality of games, with how they're manipulating Game Pass and whatever way they might be manipulating it. That's all I'm trying to say. Don't fall for the marketing anymore. How the gamer's at the center of what we do. You know, it's all about the best value. It's all about quality. Don't listen to the words. Let the actions speak for themselves and allow your response to be driven by those actions. That's what I'm trying to say. Same for Sony, right? Sony's actions very different from Microsoft's. And you know, people were people were quick to respond to Microsoft in that way. So I was happy to see that. And we just need to keep that up. Oh yeah, really quick before we end this. Bryant, you're saying MBG Xbox has a first party game called MLB The Show. Yeah, did you guys see this? The box art for MLB The Show um leaked out, and it's multi-platform now, you know? And a lot of people, I think, forgot that that was happening. I didn't forget. This doesn't surprise me. I think, frankly, MLB The Show is a game that should be multi-platform. It's a baseball game, you know? But yeah, it's really strange. If you look at it, um, you will see the PlayStation Studios logo at the bottom right corner of the Xbox version of MLB The Show. So Sony is officially has a first party studio releasing a title on Xbox, which is just crazy. Crazy. And what's funny is people are like, "Ha, look, see, Sony's going to be putting their games on Xbox." Like, no. If you followed the story, it was very clear that Sony either had to make the game agree to make the game multi-platform, or they were going to lose the MLB license. And you know what? This works out in Sony's favor in a big way because that game is going to now be a huge seller. Like, it was always a huge seller on PlayStation, but man, it's going to do. The one thing that makes me nervous is this might actually, when Sony sees how successful, when Sony sees how successful MLB The Show is going to sell as a multi-plat game, it does make me nervous that they may start to consider maybe putting some other games as multi-platform because it's going to do really well for them, really well. So, all right, guys, this podcast has went on for like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's funny because last week during the podcast, I said, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not gonna make the podcast go for more than 2 hours," and it ended up being like 2.5 hours. So I'm just not gonna say that anymore. But I'm not gonna end with a Q&A today. It's too late. I'm really hungry and I got some stuff to do. So yeah, that does it, guys. Hit that like button before you go. Let's see if we can get to 600 likes, maybe more than that. We do have 760 people here, so if it's possible, let's try to get to 700 likes. Really want to see this podcast try to hit that 1,000 like mark. Please share the podcast out to help it grow, to help the channel grow. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and listening to me rant and going over these topics. A huge shout out to all of my channel members. You guys are really coming through big for me right now. So yeah, if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member, consider upgrading your membership. Consider buying some merch. Got my All Right Guys hoodie here, as I said. So yeah, it was a good time. Thank you guys for all the super chats as well. Really helping me out, coming through. We're gonna go into and thank you guys for asking about my family. We're definitely doing better. I'm very happy to report that there's no significantly bad news. It's slowly getting better, and appreciate you guys asking about that. And yeah, we're gonna go into February. I don't know what February holds when it comes to gaming news and announcements, but I think we're gonna have some stuff to talk about. At least that's my hope anyway. So continue to watch the videos, continue to support the channel, and we will be back here next Sunday, same time, same place, and hopefully we'll have a whole new set of topics to discuss. I really had a good time today. So, all right, guys. Until next time, take care.